Chapter 1396. Xiao Yingchun coldly stood at the front of the line, and her sword-like gaze landed on Arbor. Xiao Mu wasn't an idiot. She quickly detected this kind of pressuring gaze, and looked up in the direction of the gaze. When she saw Madame Nei Li and Xiao Yingchun, she couldn't help but be startled. She still remembered that when she led Brother Xiao Hu to trigger his meridians in Shizhou City, she bumped into Madame Nei Li and her children. After that, she never saw this outrageous family of three again. The next time they met was 7 or 8 years later. However, looking at their beggar's attire and haggard appearance, they probably didn't live as they wished. "Come and take the test," the junior royal maid called out. Madame Nei Li was blindly excited and pushed away the royal maid's hand. She coughed excitedly and hastily walked up to Arbor. "You're Arbor from old Xiao's eldest branch, right?" Me. Second auntie. Jojo, do you still remember me?" Second auntie, ahahaha. As he said this, he actually laughed out loud in joy. His laughter was like a few ducks swimming in a lake. Arbor didn't think there was anything to be happy about meeting Madame Nei Li's family. The first time they met was in Quoto village. Madame Nei Li brought her precious daughter Xiao Yingchun and wanted to rob her of her supplies without any explanation. After she chased them away, she even ran to elderly Lady Qiao's place to instigate her. The second time they met was in Shizhou City. At that time, she brought Brother Xiao Hu to the Mystic Cultivator Association to trigger his meridians. Then, she got into a conflict with Qiao Tsong's master, Uncle Master Bai from Daybreak Sect. That was also her first time meeting Morong's son. From the looks of it, nothing good happened every time she met Madame Nei Li and her children. "Come and take the test," the junior royal maid angrily roared, and immediately dragged the excited Madame Nei Li to the testing stone to press her handprint. 50 years old. A normal person. 50 years old doesn't fit the age. "Throw her out," Arbor coldly said. Prince Emo glanced at Madame Nei Li and her children but didn't say anything. When Madame Li heard that she was going to be thrown out of the line and wouldn't be able to get half a grain of rice, her eyes immediately turned red. She coughed loudly and said, let me go. You cursed little beast. How could they be so cold-blooded and heartless to their own relatives? In terms of seniority in the family, I am your second aunt." Xiao Tsong was also anxious. He pointed at Arbor and said, You're Arbor, right?" A trace of hidden hatred flitted through Xiao Yingchun's eyes. She suddenly pushed aside the crowd and dashed forward. With a plop, she knelt down in front of Emo Lian. "Your Highness the Crown Prince, you must be His Highness the Crown Prince. This commoner greets Your Highness. Your Highness, this humble girl has something to report. Your Highness, you mustn't be deceived by this little village girl beside you. She wasn't the daughter of a noble family. She's just a village girl. She's not worthy of your noble status. She was a village girl from Quoto village. Your Highness." After Xiao Yingchun finished reciting, she turned to look at Arbor and said with a malicious sneer, "Arbor, I don't know what method you used to deceive the Honorable His Highness the Crown Prince. But today, I'm here to expose your true identity." The Crown Prince abruptly stood up. Xiao Yingchun's face was filled with joy as she looked up at the Crown Prince expectantly. As she expected, Arbor had indeed deceived the Crown Prince. The Crown Prince would definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation and punish this woman. What Crown Princess? A village girl delusionally wants to sit in the position of the Crown Princess? She's simply a fool's dream. Tie her up. The end of the night watch. Chapter 1397. Prince Mo's handsome face was taut as he pointed at Xiao Yingchun and her children. "Disruptors go to jail." A cold voice rang out mercilessly, causing Xiao Yingchun and her children's faces to turn ashen. How was that possible? It couldn't be. She was clearly there to expose this woman's true identity. So why didn't His Highness the Crown Prince arrest Arbor instead of the three of them? Xiao Yingchun's eyes widened in shock. Her mother, Madame Nei Li, was already trembling in fright. She hastily dragged Xiao Yingchun back and screamed, No, don't." Madame Nei Li grabbed her children's arms tightly and shielded them behind her with all her might. "Don't imprison my children. If you want to imprison me." A week ago, their family of three finally arrived at the Emo Kingdom base, after going through countless difficulties and dangers. They always thought that they would definitely have good days in the future, but they didn't expect that they would face the crisis of being imprisoned just because they came to collect rice. Xiao Yingchun and Xiao Tsong were also quite frightened. Their bodies trembled as they hid behind Madame Neili, and their eyes were filled with terror as they looked at Arbor. Arbor didn't even bother to look at them. She was already familiar with Madame Neili's family of 3. The 3 of them were all brainless, so what was the point of bickering with a few brainless people? Xiao Yingchun, I didn't expect you to only grow older, but not wiser these few years. You're already so old, yet you're still so stupid. Arbor mocked expressionlessly. Looks like you're quite lucky to be able to survive in this chaotic world for so long. What did you say? Xiao Yingchun's face flushed with anger, but her mother tightly grabbed her wrist. Arbor coldly glanced at her, causing Xiao Yingchun to swallow back the words she had yet to utter. What are you still standing there for? Rules are rules. Anyone who dares to cause trouble during this rice distribution operation will be imprisoned, Mo Lien said indifferently. Imperial guards immediately strode over and surrounded Madame Neili and her children. Don't arrest me, don't arrest me. Xiao Tsong immediately cowered and shrieked in panic. It's that woman's fault for speaking nonsense. Arrest her, arrest her. Don't arrest me. I didn't say anything. You coward, what are you saying? Xiao Yingchun shrieked and stepped forward, wanting to kick Xiao Kong. However, she was held down by a few Imperial Army soldiers, and no matter how she struggled, she was unable to break free. Arbor coldly glanced at them and waved his small hand, as if he was shooing away flies. The Imperial guards immediately responded with a yes, and dragged the Qiao family's mother and sons out of the crowd. Arbor, how could you treat old Qiao's relatives like this? Arbor, I want to see your parents, Arbor. Madame Li seemed to have been slapped twice, so she could only obediently shut her mouth. Did you see that? There was an age limit for receiving grain today. Let me remind you again. Don't come here hoping that you'll get lucky. Once you're found to be an imposter, all of you will be imprisoned. Imperial Army Commander Hui Feng repeated the rules over and over again. Arbor swept a glance over the crowd and did a head count. The 500 grains today would probably be distributed by the afternoon. If there weren't a few people causing trouble in the queue, this distribution speed would still be acceptable. After Xiao Yingchun's family of 3 was chased out, no one else dared to take the risk of receiving grain despite their age, so everything proceeded smoothly. At 5 in the afternoon, the long queue had already ended. Everyone hugged their grains and happily thanked them before leaving. Chapter 1398. Arbor stood up and said to the group of junior royal maids and eunuchs, "All right, pack up and let's go home." Everyone cheered in unison and swiftly packed up the tables, chairs, stools, rice buckets, and other items, moving them back into the food store. The food store's shopkeeper stood at the door with a grin with a group of waiters. He respectfully bowed in salute and was about to respectfully send off the crown prince and crown princess. Suddenly, an old woman with a lame leg walked over shakily with a crutch and a broken bowl in her hand. She hurriedly called out, wait a minute, I haven't received the rice yet." There was a large, half-rotten sore on the back of the granny's hand, and there was also a 7 to 8-year-old, dark-skinned and dignified child following behind her. His pair of black eyes were curiously looking at Xiao Mu and the others. "Apologies, Granny. Today's rice distribution has already ended. You came late." A tall and frivolous royal maid hastily walked up and blocked the grandmother and grandchild to prevent them from charging over and bumping into the nobles. When the old granny heard this, tears immediately dripped down her cheeks. "I live at the old, dilapidated temple on East Street. When we heard the news, we hurried over, but we didn't expect to still be a step too late." When she thought of how sad she was, the old granny couldn't control her emotions and started bawling. The royal maid glanced at the old granny sympathetically and reflexively turned to look at the stoic-faced crown princess. The young crown princess glanced at the old granny and grandchild and said with a frown, "How much can this broken bowl hold?" The royal maid's expression lit up, and she hastily fished out a rice pouch and stuffed it into the granny's hands. "Granny, The crown princess wants you to go over and receive your rice." When the lame old granny heard this, she immediately cried and laughed at the same time. Many thanks, many thanks." She originally wanted to walk to Arbor's side, but when she saw Arbor in the others' bright and beautiful clothes, she was afraid that she would dirty the nobles' clothes and incur their disdain. She stopped after a few steps and looked awkwardly at the royal maid who spoke to her earlier. When the royal maid saw this, she immediately understood. "Ah, all right, I'll go get it for you." Unexpectedly, as soon as she said that, she heard her stoic-faced young crown princess holler, "Come here, everyone." The old granny was a bit startled and didn't have time to think. She quickly held her grandchild's hand and shakily walked over. When he heard this, he couldn't help but chuckle and turned to glance at the little fellow. Why was this scene so funny? Trembling, the old woman opened the bag that the palace maid had given her. Rice suddenly flowed out of the fairy-like little girl's sparkling and translucent jade-like hands and into her own bag. The little grandson at the side blinked his black eyes and hurriedly stretched his neck to take a look at the bag of rice. Wow! After the bag was filled to the brim with rice, the elderly woman emotionally wiped her tears and quickly tied the bag tightly. She repeatedly cupped her hands and thanked Xiao Mu and company. Thank you, little Mississippi. Thank you, young sir. Eat of the nobles. Thank you, nobles. Thank you." Arbor flicked his finger, and a small jade bottle landed in the old granny's hand. He said expressionlessly, "Take the white pill orally and dissolve the red pill with warm water. Apply it externally to sores. You'll recover in 2 days." The old granny was startled, and her eyes immediately widened. Chapter 1399. But after that little girl finished speaking, she swaggered off with the noble young master beside her without even turning her head back. After the two of them returned to the Eastern Palace hand in hand, Arbor's heart stirred, and he called out for Sapling to drag them into Paradise Planet. "Yesterday, I caught quite a few small animals from the palace's farm. Do you want to come over and take a look?" Arbor pulled his hand in high spirits. With a thought, they came to Sapling's newly built farm. They saw a large open space in front of the magnetite mine, enclosed by a fence that was half a person's height. Inside, several kinds of animals were being raised, most of which were common animals like pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, and so on. Sure enough, there were only 3 to 5 of each kind, and they were all alone inside. Arbor looked up at Emolien and said, "Look, we don't have to worry about lacking meat and poultry in the future. Master, do you want to come and take a look at the spiritual tea tree?" "Okay." Arbor pulled Emolien's hand, and the two of them teleported to the center of the entire paradise. This spiritual tea tree was planted in the center of the paradise. It was very open all around without any shelter. The peach blossom trees were also transplanted to a slightly further place. At this time, this spiritual tea tree was still only a small seedling as thin as a bean sprout. The two of them squatted in front of the spiritual tea tree and carefully looked at it. Xiaomu blinked and asked, "Qiu, this spiritual tea tree is still so small even after so long. When exactly will it grow up?" "Aya. Right now Little Water and Little Earth are still in closed-door cultivation. After they come out, there will be sacred water to nourish the sacred soil to cultivate it. Plus I'll pull the seedling to help it grow, accelerate its growth. In this way it should be very fast." Arbor nodded his little head. "Then when will they wake up?" "I think it's about time. At most another 10 days to half a month." Arbor hurriedly nodded. "Okay. Then this spiritual tea. Will something happen to people in the profound realm when they drink it?" "Yes. They can't withstand this spiritual energy, and their bodies may explode. But Master's situation is different. In any case, you can use spiritual energy now. Then I can't give it to grandmother." Arbor tilted his head, and his eyes suddenly lit up. "Emolien, come with me." Their figures flashed, and when they appeared again, they were already behind the peach blossom slope. The maple pavilion stood on the slope where peach blossoms fluttered in the wind. The longevity tree with its colorful ball-shaped flowers was moved to the side of the maple pavilion. On the other side, there was an especially huge mutated peach tree. This peach tree was the one that had been nurtured by Little Soil. At this moment, it was like a towering tree that towered into the sky. It was covered in fruits, and each peach was as big as a wash basin. It was so big that it was a bit exaggerated. How about I give grandmother a pair of peaches for her birthday? Then, I'll use high-grade longevity grass to make 2 longevity pills for her. What do you think? Arbor muttered. It's a pity that the longevity tree hasn't borne fruit yet. Otherwise, I could make 2 longevity pills for grandmother. The effect of the longevity pill was naturally incomparable to the longevity pill. However, looking at the longevity tree's current state, who knew how long it would take for it to bear fruit? Baby, it's already very good. Emolien cupped her little face and praised. Grandmother will be very happy. Arbor nodded. Suddenly, his eyes flickered, and he saw a small snake head poking out from between the leaves of the longevity tree. A pair of big, watery, cute eyes blinked as it looked at Arbor. Chapter 1400. Suddenly, it cried out Master Silver, and slid over to her with tears in its eyes. Arbor stared blankly, and subconsciously reached out her hand. The little white snake slid its body all the way to her palm and cried pitifully. Master, master, master! Hungry! Arbor's mouth twitched, while Emolien on the side smiled faintly. She reached out 2 fingers to pinch the snake's head and lifted it up. This crown prince is also quite hungry. Why don't we cook some snake soup? The little white snake shook its wriggling little body, bubbles in its eyes. It turned its head to look at its master and said, Master! Slap! Emolien unhappily slapped the snake's head. You idiot! Why aren't you transforming into your human form? This summoned beast's body emitted the aura of a beginner sacred beast. It could transform into a human a long time ago, but it always turned into a cute little snake and acted spoiled and cute in front of his darling Xiao. What a headache! Not only did she have to guard against humans, she also had to guard against beasts. Her heart felt so tired. She had to keep a close eye on it at all times. I won't. The cute little snake proudly raised its snake head. Its eyes were misty as it cutely looked at Arbor. If it had 2 little hands, it would definitely have a look of asking for a hug right now. Arbor couldn't help but be a little speechless. This human and snake could even fight. So what else could she say? She pulled Emolien's hand and held up the little white snake. She glanced at the coquettish snake rolling in her palm and couldn't help but shake her head. Let's make a pot of stew. It's simple and delicious. Emolien's lips curled into a smile. Her eyes were like knives as she poked that damn white snake and said with a smile, Snake meat stew in a pot. It's very delicious, Jojo. This damn slandering man. The little white snake's 2 big round eyes angrily glared at Emolien. After a while, Emolien made a pot of mushroom meat stew. The 2 people, 1 snake, 1 ape, 1 chicken, 1 phoenix, and 1 squirrel sat in a circle and ate with relish. It could be said that they were all gathered together today. Other than sacred water and sacred earth who hadn't come out of seclusion, the other summoned beasts and contracted beasts were all present. That little white snake almost buried its head into the plate in front of it. Little snake, I'll give you a name. The moment Arbor said that, the little chick who was pecking at meat with its little mouth, choked on its own. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, it's a historical moment again. After the little master continued, the little snake. The little snakes, the master, the snake, the master, the little, the snake, the master, the master. The blazing blood fire phoenix, who had shrunk to the size of a blue wand, couldn't help but turn its head and roll its eyes at him. Are you sure? I've thought it through. The little white snake nodded its little head vigorously with an expression that said, Please give me a name. Please give me a name. Arbor tilted its head and thought for a moment. Then I'll call you Snaky from now on. The little white snake, Snaky? Master, are you sure this is a name you came up with after careful consideration? Arbor picked up a mushroom with his chopsticks. Or should I call you Softy? Puffed. Cough, cough, cough. The Bloodfire Phoenix suddenly felt that the name she had given to it by this scoundrel wasn't too bad. How about cheer? Emolien's mouth twitched as she calmly picked up a wine glass. Master, why you should just call me Snaky? The little white snake stuttered. Chapter 1401. Take a closer look, you're Snow White all over. How about I call you Whitey? No, no, master, look. This little fat squirrel is also covered in white fur. He's more suitable for this name. The little snake betrayed his teammate without a second word. Chirp. The little fat squirrel expressed that he didn't understand what they were saying at all, and his little furry face revealed a bit of foolishness. Don't bully Chirp. He's so small, and his comprehension is limited, Arbor said softly. After saying that, the phoenix, chicken, snake, and ape all swept a disdainful glance at the fat squirrel that was acting dumb. Jojo, high-level mystic beasts all have spiritual intelligence, not to mention the ones beside you. As long as they're divine beasts and above, they can all transform into human form. Emolien coughed lightly, and said while pointing at the little fat squirrel, he should be a sacred beast. Otherwise, when the Bloodfire Phoenix egg entered your conscious pool back then, you would have kicked it away long ago, no? Arbor blinked. Aside from the ape and the divine bird Qing Wan, in other words, the little white snake, the phoenix egg, and the little fat squirrel beside her were all sacred beasts? Emolien nodded vigorously. So don't be fooled by their adorable appearances. Who's adorable? The Bloodfire Phoenix was the first to cry out in defiance. This lord has never acted cute or foolishly. Don't compare me with those two idiots. If I'm not wrong, this little white snake that's acting dumb, it should be the ancient Netherworld Great Void Serpent. He has the power of the Netherworld. Emolien swept a glance at the little white snake whose eyes flickered. Arbor picked up the small bowl and ate 2 mouthfuls of rice. She looked at the little white snake with sparkling eyes. Then how about I call you Mingming from now on? When the little white snake heard that, compared to the unreliable snake, soft, thin, and white names, this Mingming sounded much more pleasing to the ear. It quickly nodded its head and agreed, worried that its little master would go back on her words. Egg. The Bloodfire Phoenix's mouth twitched. I'm no longer an egg. Oh right. Last time I named you Fire. Arbor nodded. The day after tomorrow, I, your master, may go into seclusion for a few days, and take that bone-forging pill. All of you better behave yourselves. Don't fight with each other, okay? All of them nodded their heads in unison. At first glance, they looked rather obedient. Master Silver, that immortal venerable is here. He has been pacing back and forth in your sleeping quarters. I think he doesn't know how to get in. Why hasn't he disappeared yet? Arbor looked at Emolien in shock. He's been here all this time? Yes. Emolien nodded slightly. These days, I've had Hidden Flower accompany him to drink and chat. Don't worry, he won't be too bored. Master, do you want to drag him in? Hey, what do you think? He should be an expert in the God realm. Wouldn't it be a problem if he didn't go back? Wouldn't the heavenly Tao find trouble with him? Or could it be that there was actually a freaking God-sending talisman, but she just didn't know how to draw it? Heh. Chocho laughed. Master, you have a lot of God realm experts around you. Don't all of them rely on things like Dharma treasures to hide their auras and hide from the heavenly Tao's search? Arbor was startled, and his gaze naturally shifted to Emolien. Chocho chattered endlessly. What's there to be afraid of? At worst, I'll just be dragged to the heavenly Tao's punishment realm for a walk. Chocho, what did you say? Ah, Master, what did I say? Chapter 1402. Arbor's face was stoic as she said coldly, You did. You were talking about the realm of punishment. Chocho, who had a quick tongue, immediately glanced guiltily at Emolien, who had an ugly expression on her face, and hurriedly stuffed mushrooms and meat slices into her mouth. No, Chocho didn't say anything. Don't tell me you're hiding something from me. Arbor keenly sensed that something was amiss. Emolien hurriedly pulled her to her side and smiled reassuringly. It's fine, Jojo. Don't listen to Little Tree's nonsense. What does it know? It's just spouting nonsense all day long. Don't mind it. The sapling flattened its little mouth that was embedded in the tree trunk and snorted. It waved its arms and legs and shouted, Master, I'd better drag the venerable Peach Blossom Immortal in. He's still rummaging through your bedroom looking for you. Arbor. A moment later, a certain venerable Peach Blossom Immortal's eyes brightened as he discovered that he was in a place filled with flying peach blossoms. He looked up and saw that the little girl and her group were under a peach blossom tree not far in front of him. They were sitting in a circle and eating, as if they were having a picnic. Wow, little fellow, this mystic domain of yours is probably tailor-made for me, right? Look at how beautiful the peach blossoms are. It's definitely the most suitable place for me to stay. Arbor was speechless. Don't you want to go back? I want to go back. But it's fine if I stay here for a few more days. The venerable peach blossom immortal turned to glance at Arbor pitifully. You don't know where we are. We only know how to cultivate all day long. There's neither good food nor good wine. There's no joy at all. It's not easy for me to come back. I must eat my fill and drink to my heart's content before I leave. Arbor! Exclamation point. You glutton. In other words, you dared to provoke the heavenly Tao for the sake of eating and drinking. Won't there be any problems? There will. If the heavenly Tao finds out, it'll be terrible. A small punishment might be being struck by lightning. A big punishment might be being thrown into. Woo 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 woo. Before the venerable peach blossom immortal could finish speaking, little tree Chiochio pounced over and stuffed his mouth with a branch. Fuck you. The venerable immortal angrily pulled the little treant off his face and snorted. Then he put on a smile and sniffed a few times. What are you eating? Come on. Add another pair of chopsticks. Hurry up. It's more fun to eat with more people. After the venerable peach blossom immortal forced his way into this small circle, the three of them gathered together with their beasts. They even brought a few bottles of wine and planned to have a drink. However, Arbor felt as if something was pressing down on her heart. She felt heavy. Occasionally, she would raise her head and see Emolien smiling innocently at her, which made her swallow the question she was about to ask. Sigh, forget it. Since they don't want to talk about it for the time being, then I won't ask. Arbor finished the rice in his bowl and wanted to scoop 2 spoonfuls of soup, but then he found. Where's the soup? There's no more soup. This pot of stew was enough for at least 7 or 8 people. But it was finished just like that. Everyone's appetite was really good. The next day, Emolien accompanied Arbor back to the Marquis of Jeyuan's residence. Knowing that the crown princess was returning home today, the main gate of the Marquis's residence opened wide early in the morning. Xiao Zhongbang and his family were all waiting expectantly. When they heard a servant come to report that the crown princess's carriage had already entered Minshun Avenue, they immediately rushed over. Xiao Zhongbang, second uncle Qiao, and the rest of the family all rushed toward the main gate and looked at the entrance excitedly. They saw a handsome man and a beautiful woman appear at the main gate hand in hand. Chapter 1403. Greetings, Your Highness the Crown Prince, greetings. Everyone's eyes curved into crescents as they stepped forward to greet him. We're all family, no need to be so courteous. Older sister is back, older sister is back. Xiao Lin'er cheered, and was about to pounce over to give her older sister, whom she hadn't seen for many days, a hug. Unexpectedly, a small figure was faster than her. He jumped in front of Arbor and hugged her leg, shouting, Benefactress, benefactress, benefactress. Arbor couldn't help but find it funny. She bent down to pick up the little monk and knocked on his little head. You missed me? This little monk missed Benefactress very much. When Benefactress wasn't here, this little monk couldn't eat or sleep in peace. Woo-woo. The little monk sniffled and nodded. You heartless little one. Wei Ziqin was amused and annoyed at the same time. I wonder who's been cooking all kinds of vegetarian food for you recently to make you happy. Benefactress's mother. The little monk said in a childish voice. Arbor rubbed his little bald head in amusement. Mother, let's go in and talk. The group of people moved to the main hall and gathered together, laughing and chatting happily. When they talked about yesterday's trip to Shilua Street to distribute food, Xiao Lin'er pouted angrily and said, Why didn't big sister bring me to something so fun? Wei Ziqin hit her daughter in annoyance and reprimanded softly, You can play with anything. Father, mother, second uncle, second aunt, younger brother, younger sister, we brought you some small gifts. Take them and distribute them. Emolien had people move the things in and handed them out one by one. For mother and second aunt, there was a set of head ornaments and jewelry. For father and second uncle, there was a famous calligraphy and painting. For younger brother, there was a set of the 4 treasures of the study. For brother Xiaohu, there was a famous sword. For Xiaolin there was a pair of golden brocade wristbands. Everyone couldn't help but hold their gifts, grinning from ear to ear. This is for eldest aunt and cousin Ruolin. If mother visits them later, you can bring it over. Good. Wei Ziqing chuckled and nodded. The little monk sat on Arbor's lap and looked at the gift boxes in everyone's hands. He asked weakly, I don't have any? Arbor couldn't help but find it funny. With a flick of his wrist, he took out a pink and fluffy hat from his inner world and put it on the little monk's bald head. Nice. Yes. Ha ha ha. Jolin was laughing so hard that he fell down. Did you see that? That lotus flower was embroidered by Big Sister. Do you like it? Arbor's eyes curved as he lowered his head and asked the small monk. The corners of Emolien's mouth twitched silently. He didn't know if he should praise his wife for her hobby of embroidering lotus flowers. The little monk reluctantly nodded his little head. She looks a little ugly. Pfft. Everyone hurriedly held back their laughter, pretended to cough, and each took a cup of tea to drink. Don't complain, I'll tell you. Arbor flicked his little head. Wear it when you go shopping in the future. Don't always show your bald head. But it's a little hot. Second Uncle Qiao choked on his tea. It was going to be hot soon. And his little niece actually gave the little monk a fluffy hat. This was simply, did you do your morning ritual today? Arbor changed the topic. I finished it yesterday. The little monk muttered to himself, immediately forgetting his earlier protest. Chapter 1404. After eating lunch, Arbor followed Emolien back to the Eastern Palace. Since he didn't have anything to do in the afternoon, Arbor took out the bone-forging pill and glanced at it. Are you going to take it now? Emolien asked as she set down the scroll in her hand. Xiuqiu said it would take 3 days, but I feel like it's a bit of a scam. It'll probably take 5 to 7 days. Okay, if you finish forging as soon as possible, there won't be any problems afterwards. Emolien wouldn't stop things that could increase her strength. On the contrary, she was very supportive. Arbor nodded. After forging my bones this time, I hope that my body won't be so weak when fighting against people below the spiritual realm. At the very least, I won't vomit blood after getting hit by 2 palms. Jojo, you will definitely succeed. Emolien nodded with a smile. Let's go. I'll bring you to the cultivation area in the back room of the bedchamber to enter closed-door cultivation. Arbor hummed in assent and stood up, allowing her to lead him to the secret room. After the stone wall on the wall shifted back to its original position, Emolien turned around and walked out of the secret room with a smile. Guifeng flipped in from outside the window and cupped his hands. Your Highness, how is the investigation going? Guifeng nodded. According to the information that the Hidden Night Pavilion has collected over the past few days, we have basically confirmed it. It was Commandery Princess E, and who arranged for a group of local ruffians to cause trouble on your Highness's big day. A severe glint flashed past Emolien's eyes. As expected, it was this sick woman. She actually dared to ruin such an important day of his big day. Simply abominable. Your Highness, Emolien ordered coldly, continue. But that day, when the Crown Princess was serving tea, the person who bribed the royal maid Kaiqin to poison Her Majesty the Queen Dowager was not Commandery Princess Ian. Guifeng said. But Her Majesty the Queen Dowager seems to be convinced that it was Commandery Princess Ian who poisoned her. Was it the vassal king of Annan's estate? Guifeng nodded. That's right. There is a maidservant in vassal king Consort Wu's estate, and she is the royal maid Saiqin's younger sister. After this person was captured, Princess Annam had been secretly instructing Kaiqin to do things. Emolien sneered. You don't have to tell me the truth. Let's just let grandmother think that this ingrate did it. This way, it would be easier for him to make his move and prevent his grandmother from being soft-hearted and obstructing him. Before evening, the crown prince went to the great king's imperial study and talked to his father about something. When night fell that night, an abrupt imperial edict was sent to the vassal king of Annan's estate. The edict praised the vassal prince of Annan both overtly and covertly, saying that since the vassal prince had reached the marriageable age, Commandery Princess Ian was to be his principal wife. This edict came out of nowhere and caught everyone off guard. But the vassal prince of Nan was rather happy. Previously, he was still looking forward to how he could get his father to ask the great king for an imperial edict. He didn't expect that the edict would come just as he was thinking about it. Although it came very suddenly, it didn't hinder him from achieving his goal. The vassal prince of Nan Chofu was very happy. He led his family members to kneel down and respectfully receive the edict. On the other hand, the vassal king consort of Nan and the vassal king consort looked at each other in bewilderment, not understanding why this edict was issued so strangely. When Huifeng reported this matter to the crown prince was taking a nap in the studies compartment, so he merely nodded when he heard this. He was the one who went to ask for the imperial edict, so he already knew about it. But why does the crown prince want to fulfill the vassal prince of Nan's wish? Huifeng asked in puzzlement. It had to be known that the vassal prince of Nan had always been interested in Commandery Princess Ian and had already expressed his desire to marry her. The crown prince scoffed. We are going to fulfill their wishes and let them die. Chapter 1405. A pair of scumbags and a bitch, what a joke. Of course, they couldn't do anything to the vassal king of Nan's family for no reason. After all, the vassal king of Nan's ancestors had fought alongside the former king. If they were to target a meritorious official for no reason, not to mention that the common people's spit would drown the Mo family, even the imperial censors would certainly remonstrate to death. However, the vassal king of Nan's estate had been constantly making moves recently. What was even more laughable was that they thought he was unaware as the crown prince. It was fine. Let them continue to make trouble. By then, Ian would have already married into the family, so he could behead them all at once. This way, they would have a companion on the road to the Yellow Springs. At that time, not to mention that he was vicious and merciless, they had brought this upon themselves. Huifeng looked at Prince Mo's expression and quickly lowered his head. Your Highness, there is another matter. The several dozen burly men who caused a ruckus on South Shilua Street should have been hired by someone. Someone wanted to cause a large number of casualties, but they didn't expect Your Highness to arrive so quickly with the royal guards. The crown prince narrowed his eyes. Continue investigating and ferret out the mastermind. He had a premonition that the organization behind this wanted to make another move after failing to clean up the polluted water source. This time, perhaps they were targeting the Mo Kingdom base. After all, the Mo Kingdom base had the most human traffic and had the most complete defensive fortifications. As long as they wiped out the Mo Kingdom's defensive fortifications, it would be easy to dismantle the other fortifications. He keenly sensed an impending storm, and he closed the book in his hand. On the other side, when news of the betrothal reached Commandery Princess Ian's Anya Pavilion, she simply couldn't believe her ears. What did you say? Say it again. The fine-toothed comb in Commandery Princess Ian's hand unwittingly fell to the ground with a clatter. She sat on a small stool with her long hair draped over her shoulders. Her eyes were wide open, and her rosy face after bathing appeared as ghastly pale as a sheet of paper. Suer immediately burst into tears. Miss, the great king's decree has already reached the vassal king of Nan's estate, and the vassal prince of Nan has already received it. The wedding date is set for 1 month from now. After the Queen Dowager's birthday banquet, it will be Mrs. turn to get married. Commandery Princess Ian's vision darkened, and she nearly toppled off the stool. Fortunately, Suer saw that something was wrong with her, and immediately rushed forward to support her. Miss, you have to hold on. You must not fall. What did the Empress Dowager say? The Queen Dowager also knows the great king's intention behind this marriage decree? Commandery Princess Ian shrieked. How can the great king make such a decision on his own? Without the Empress Dowager's permission, she personally arranged my marriage. Please be careful with your words, princess. On the side, the long-faced senior maidservant Ming Qian calmly said. The great king did not disgrace the Commandery Princess's reputation by betrothing you to the vassal prince of Nan. Even if the Queen Dowager finds out, she probably won't object. No, I won't marry him. I will not marry Chofu. I won't. Commandery Princess Ian stood up, losing control of her emotions. This was the first time she had revealed such a furious and agitated expression. I want to see the Queen Dowager. Su-er, follow me to see the Empress Dowager. Yes. Miss, please think thrice. Ming Qian hastily chased after her and shouted. In the current situation, the great king has already issued his royal edict. It is impossible for the Queen Dowager to disgrace the great king, for the Commandery Princess's sake. Commandery Princess Ian instantly collapsed onto the small stool. Chapter 1406. However, before she could sit properly, she collapsed limply onto the ground. Su-er's heart ached when she saw this, and she called out repeatedly, Miss! Help me to the Queen Dowager. Help me over. Commandery Princess Ian pleaded with reddened eyes and tears. No matter what, she had to go and try. No matter how slim the hope was, she could not just casually entrust her future to a strange man like this. She couldn't accept it. A summer rain abruptly arrived after dusk. The torrential downpour poured down like a hole in the sky. Thunder boomed. 2 people were kneeling in the rain, their faces covered in mist, unable to open their eyes from the rain. Feng Gu walked up to the 2 people, while holding an oil paper umbrella. She looked down at the 2 delicate women kneeling on the limestone floor, and said with a shake of her head, Commandery Princess, it's raining heavily outside. You had better return early. Nanny Feng, I want to see the Queen Dowager. Nanny Feng, the Queen Dowager has already rested. Feng Gu gazed at her coldly before telling Su-er, Why haven't you brought your master back yet? Nanny Feng, I want to see the Queen Dowager. Nanny Feng. Commandery Princess, don't be so unappreciative. What kind of person is Her Majesty the Queen Dowager? Is she someone you can meet whenever you want? Feng Gu swept her an indifferent glance and said, Why haven't you withdrawn yet? Do you want me to order the royal guards to carry you back? She said this extremely bluntly. Commandery Princess Ian collapsed to the ground in shock and fury. Under the rain and wind, she actually fainted in Su-er's arms. Miss! Su-er shrieked in shock. Feng Gu scoffed inwardly with a mocking expression. She turned to instruct a junior royal maid behind her coldly. The Commandery Princess is unwell. Go to the Royal Physician building and invite a royal physician over to take a look. Yes. Su-er supported her young miss who had fainted and shouted at Feng Gu's departing figure. Nanny Feng. Su-er felt chills in her heart. It turned out that after losing the Queen Dowager's favor, the master and servant pair's days in the palace were actually so difficult. My Lotus's section break. Ever since Arbor consumed the bone-forging pill, he sunk into a wondrous realm. She activated her inner vision, and could see that her bone marrow and meridians were being forged and expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. Naturally, this process was extremely unpleasant. However, after experiencing the pain of the secret realm, fusing with the blood vessels in his dantian, all of this seemed to be nothing to Arbor. She calmed herself down and sat there cross-legged. Just like that, she stared at her own bone marrow meridians as they changed inch by inch under the forging of the bone-forging pill. At this moment, her bone marrow was gradually covered with a layer of white light from her thighs, sternum to her skull. It looked extremely holy and radiant. If there were any outsiders here, they would definitely be very surprised to see that the little crown princess was emitting strands of holy white light all over her body. When all of her bones turned into a lustrous white color, Arbor understood that this should be the metamorphosis that the sapling Qiuqiu had mentioned, the transformation from a mortal skeleton to a mystic skeleton. At this time, the changes to her body were very obvious. Not only had her defensive endurance greatly expanded, but her attack power had also reached the point where she could send a mystic cultivator below level 15 flying with a heavy punch. It was hard to find a match below the spiritual realm. Chapter 1407. No, she might even be able to disregard the attacks of some low-level soul realm cultivators as ineffective against her. Moreover, the changes to her bone marrow continued to change with the passage of time. With this change, Arbor truly felt the horror of having her broken bones reconstructed. It was the pain of having her bones broken inch by inch and being reconstructed anew. Even the bloodline in her body could not help but scream crazily. Pain. Pain. It was too fucking painful. However, she could not be afraid of this pain. The more she thought about it, the more it hurt. She could only overcome this psychological fear by facing it head-on. Miss Chiao simply blocked her 5 senses, concealing her spirit and qi, and entered a state of complete emptiness. However, the pain in her bone marrow did not mean that she could not feel it immediately after blocking her 5 senses. The pain that penetrated deep into her bone marrow still existed, but it was slightly better in comparison. Arbor suddenly opened her eyes. Within her inner vision, she discovered that her bone marrow had turned from glowing white to being covered with a layer of faint purple light. This faint purple light was still gradually turning into a faint pinkish-yellow color. However, cold sweat trickled down her head, and she felt that her bone marrow was about to go numb from the pain. Suddenly, a pink figure appeared beside her. With a flick of his sleeve, the little girl fell to the ground with a plop. A certain venerable immortal sighed. With another flick of his sleeve, he supported her body. The little tree Chocho's tree face was full of guilt. Dodo hopped out of the paradise. Master, master, master. So noisy. The venerable immortal brushed this noisy tree man aside in annoyance. You are too bold. You actually gave her a god-level bone-forging pill. If she can't take it, you know what will happen. Master, master, she won't be able to take it. The venerable peach blossom immortal glared fiercely at the tree man. She has already reached the half-step immortal bone realm. If she takes another half-step, what do you think will happen? Her mystic realm cultivation will not be able to take the violent transformation of her bones and blood. She will. No, no, no. The little tree man was sweating profusely as he spun around on the spot. Then he wailed, I was wrong. Venerable immortal, please save her. She's fine. The venerable peach blossom immortal glared at the little tree. Haste makes waste. You'd better remember this. The little treant drooped its head listlessly. 5 days later, Arbor opened a pair of slightly dazed eyes and was shocked by a little treant that suddenly jumped in front of him and cried loudly. What exactly did little tree experience? The leaves on his head seemed to have been roasted by fire, and there were 2 panda eyes hanging on his head. He looked like he had been beaten up several times. Arbor was speechless. He touched the scorched leaves of the sapling and asked, What's wrong with you, master? Just as the sapling was about to jump onto the bed, it was kicked to the corner by the little water baby who suddenly jumped up. The sapling held its head and counted mushrooms. Master. The water child's tears pitter-pattered down. With a flip of her hand, Xiaomu took out a jar from her inner world and adeptly collected the sacred water. The little water baby was speechless. Master, you worried us to death. A squarish lump of dirt suddenly popped out from behind the little water baby and said naively, You don't know. You've been unconscious for 4 to 5 days. You scared me to death. Chapter 1408. 2. 844 Fooling around. Are you even human? With a flick of her sleeve, Emolien brushed the little ones to the side. Sitting down by the bed, he raised his hand to touch Arbor's forehead. The man's eyes were slightly worried. Jojo, you're too much of a troublemaker. Arbor blinked, looking at him in confusion. She glanced at the little treant hiding beside the cabinet, and her heart skipped a beat. I thought you were going to forge your bones, and only forge your mortal bones into a mystic skeleton. I didn't expect you to take a god-tier pill. Arbor instantly glanced at the little treant hiding behind the cabinet, looking at her with a guilty expression. Needless to say, it must be this troublemaker's doing. She knew this little guy was unreliable. Sure enough, he wanted her to reach the heavens in a single bound. But she was only at the 14th level of the profound realm. If she couldn't reach the heavens, she would explode. But at this moment, she secretly looked inside herself and could see that her bones were actually an extremely light yellow. I've forged my spirit bones. Not only that. Emolien shook her head. You forged your half-step immortal bones. Emolien helplessly reached out to stroke her head. With your current body's defensive power, As long as you aren't surrounded by more than 10 great spirit masters at the same time, most spirit masters below the 10th level won't be able to do anything to you. Arbor's eyes brightened. Originally, her original goal was to not get injured in the hands of people below the 5th level of spirit masters. She didn't expect the forging of her bones to go so smoothly this time. Smooth your head. Emolian raised her hand and lightly patted her forehead. She snappily grabbed her and gave her a hard bite on her little face. If I don't keep a close eye on you, you'll mess around. When you go into seclusion in the future, I'll watch over you from the side. Darling Qiao immediately shook her head like a rattledrum. No, how can I calm down with you by my side? Hearing this, Emolian's phoenix eyes brightened. She raised her hand and pulled her into her embrace. Why? Are you panicking when you see me? Arbor was both amused and annoyed. He raised his hand and smacked him. Nonsense. How are you talking nonsense? Why don't you admit it? Emolian rubbed her head. How are you feeling now? How do you feel? Arbor tilted his head and suddenly reached out to pinch his face. I feel a little hungry. You haven't eaten for 4 or 5 days. Emolian held her hand and got off the bed. He turned his head and stared straight at her. Arbor looked down at himself. Why are you staring at me like that? Take a look. Emolian casually stuffed a bronze mirror into her hands. Xiaomu couldn't help but be taken aback after taking a look. As it turned out, after forging her bones, her skin had become even more delicate and translucent. On her tender little face, her almond-shaped eyes were glowing, and she looked extremely beautiful. So delicious. Emolian reached out and picked her up, then frowned. You've lost weight again. Someone prepare the meal. Emolian carried her to the table while muttering softly. Jojo, you have to eat an extra bowl of rice every day. This way you can quickly grow taller and fatter. She no longer had extravagant hopes for growing taller. After rolling his eyes at him, Arbor dragged a stool over to sit next to him. Nothing happened while I was in seclusion, right? No, everything was calm and peaceful. I was so idle that I had nothing to do every day. If you want to talk about something major, it might be the great king's betrothal between the vassal prince of Anan and commandery princess Ian. Chapter 1409. Arbor, who was drinking soup, almost choked. You did it. Her expression was a bit odd. MHM. Emolian nodded vigorously, looking like he was asking for praise. He looked at his wife with a grin and said, Who told that Ian to always hover around us like a housefly? It's so annoying. The earlier we marry her off, the easier it'll be. What do you think of my handling of this matter? Not bad. Darling Qiao also nodded in agreement. I don't know what's wrong with that person, but she always likes to deliberately get close to me. Do I look that stupid? How can I become good sisters with her just by letting her bluff me a bit? How can there be such a comical thing in this world? I don't like her. She's terribly scheming. Arbor scooped up a spoonful of rice and swallowed it. When she looked up, she saw Emolian, this guy, staring fixedly at her with his flickering phoenix eyes. You don't know why she got close to you? How would I know? Arbor scooped up another spoonful of rice and swept him a suspicious glance. Cough, then let me ask you something. Emolian coughed lightly and moved the stool closer to his wife. He asked cautiously, That day we ran into Old Fourth, which is the 4th princess. Do you still remember? I remember this. She even ran to your father and fiercely complained about me, saying that I beat her up so badly that she couldn't go out to meet people. Arbor fumed whenever she recalled this matter. Why don't you tell me? When and where did I beat her up? The crown prince couldn't resist facepalming. My darling, you really don't remember? Arbor's hair would stand on end whenever she heard the words don't remember. After experiencing passive amnesia, she would often stubbornly say to other people that she remembered everything. How could I not remember? Emolian really wanted to laugh when she glanced over with her small gaze. Subsequently, he nodded repeatedly with an everything my wife says is right attitude. He quickly said, Right, you remember everything. It was that time when you stepped in to save eldest Chin on the street. You beat up Old Fourth. Arbor was suddenly enlightened. Why didn't you say so back then? Emolian couldn't help but be speechless. It seemed that some people, no matter how many times his wife saw them at the palace banquet, would turn a blind eye to them. No wonder she looks familiar to me, Arbor muttered to himself as he ate a mouthful of food from his small bowl. But she still had the cheek to cry to your father. She's robbing people on the street. Is she in the right? Emolien, that Bao Bao, she really wasn't here to rob us that day. She was here to capture eldest Qin. Emolien felt that it was necessary to talk to the little girl about the relationship between men and women, lest she was either cultivating or fighting all day long. Prince Emo thought to himself that if he chatted more, he would definitely be enlightened one day. Why? Arbor looked at Emolien curiously. Why? Emolien coughed lightly. You've heard that Emo Shuang wants to marry eldest Qin, right? It must be because Emo Shuang likes him that she wants to marry him. Arbor put down her bowl and chopsticks. But didn't eldest Qin reject her long ago? Yes, but there are so many infatuated men and resentful women in this world. It's not as if the other party can give up just because the other party rejects, right? Arbor instantly understood and nodded. Fourth princess is too persistent. Emolien, say, this little girl doesn't understand, but she immediately understands when you tell her. Say she understands, but she always looks like she doesn't understand. How worrying. Chapter 14:10. What you mean is, that commandery princess Ian actually likes you and wants to marry you? That's why she's been trying to get close to me and become good sisters with me? Look, this little fellow was so perceptive and could infer many things from one instance. She could completely understand, with just a little bit of explanation. It looked like there was still a lot of hope in enlightening her. He had to put it on the agenda as soon as possible. However, Arbor felt very uncomfortable on the inside. She didn't know why, but when she heard Emolien say that whatever commandery princess wanted to marry him wholeheartedly, it was like she had swallowed a fly. She felt very uncomfortable all over. When is she getting married? Wasn't this topic jumping a bit too quickly? Emolien couldn't resist replying. After the Queen Dowager's birthday banquet. You can't let her get married right away? Darling Xiao pulled a long face. Emolien couldn't resist sputtering with laughter. A vassal prince and a commandery princess getting married in a month is already considered a hasty wedding. Darling Xiao pursed her lips. All right then. I wish them a long and happy marriage. Look at how awkward she was and how proud she was as she said it. Emolien laughed out loud and pulled her onto her lap. Jojo, you're unhappy. I am unhappy. Arbor nodded honestly. I don't like her liking you. Emolien's eyes were bright as she looked down at her. Darling, do you know why? Arbor nodded and replied bluntly. Because you are mine. I forbid her from liking you. Oh my God, this answer simply made Prince Emo burst with joy. Darling, what should I do? You're going to charm me to death. Sure enough, this fellow in front of her was so close to her, and her pair of beautiful eyes were glowing. Such a good-looking person indeed made her a bit flustered. Arbor coughed dryly and muttered good-for-nothing inwardly, her large eyes darting to the side in embarrassment. Do you know Jojo? Emolien cupped her small face in his hands and gazed at her intently as he said seriously, My love for you is already indescribable with words. Arbor thought about it and nodded. Me too. Prince Emo held back his laughter and said seriously, My love for you is so deep that you can't even imagine it. Darling Xiao tilted her head and thought for a moment before nodding. Me too. Look, this little guy is interesting. She was a person who wouldn't act until she saw a rabbit. You have to take a big step first. Then she will follow you, and take a small step. She will follow in small steps, and one day she will be able to walk side by side with him. Prince Emo once again praised himself in his heart. How could he have been so wise and far-sighted back then? He really admired his own wit. Arbor reached out to rub his face. I just don't get it. Since fourth princess has already been clearly rejected, why can't she just switch paths? Why must she run headlong into an iron-headed tree like eldest Qin? Not everyone is as decisive as you. Prince Mo's heart stirred, and he hugged her tightly in his arms and stroked her hair. You can say that she doesn't understand love, but she can see things so clearly sometimes. Emolien lowered his head to kiss her face. Xiao Xiao, let me ask you something. Yesterday, I found a small booklet with both pictures and text in your official box. Was it for you to study? MHM, MHM, MMM? Emolian widened her almond-shaped eyes and looked innocently at Arbor, who had reached out to cover her mouth. The little guy spat at him, and her face flushed red as she immediately moved away from his lap and ran out. I'm going to eat first. Wait. Chapter 14:11. After the eagle's cry, the well-built black-clothed youth stepped onto a huge rock and stretched out his left arm to catch the eagle that was flying straight down towards his face. The eagle's small, sparkling eyes looked back and forth as it let out several short cries. Congratulations, young lord. Congratulations, young lord. You have tamed the most ferocious eagle king of our western wilderness prairie. An earth-shattering roar came from behind the youth. The youth turned around, his wolfish eyes hidden in the messy hair in front of his forehead, emitting an unruly and ruthless light. He raised the eagle on his left arm high up. In an instant, the several hundred personal attendants below erupted into thunderous roars of praise. Young lord, young lord, young lord. The youth was about 20 years old. He was tall. His skin was nearly the color of wheat, and his hair was combed into a small braid. His facial features were deep and handsome. His black tights wrapped around his perfectly streamlined body, and his entire person exuded a wild, unrestrained, and awe-inspiring domineering aura. Young lord didn't come out of seclusion for 3 years, but the moment he did, he intimidated everyone. The white-haired Aikido tribe patriarch Ahan, whose face was covered in wrinkles, said with a smile, Young lord is growing too quickly. In the blink of an eye, he has grown to the point where we are left in the dust. Another clansman said with a smile. Patriarch, Lord Patriarch. In the distance, a young clansman riding a horse quickly arrived in front of Patriarch Ahan. He dismounted and respectfully handed over a letter. This is news from Northern Emo. Ahan frowned. He opened the letter and quickly skimmed through it. He couldn't help but be startled. I didn't expect that Northern Mo's royal crown prince has already gotten married. Father, what is the news? The youth ACI collected his gaze and quickly walked over to Ahan. It's news from Northern Mo. Take a look. Ahan handed the letter to him. ACI took the letter and gave it a cursory glance. His wolfish eyes glowed with a faint green light. Father, the letter says that Northern Mo's Queen Dowager's 70th birthday has been set on the 8th of June. I plan to personally lead a team. What? Ahan was taken aback. He then shook his head and said, That's inappropriate. With your status, why do you need to attend the birthday celebration of a mere Northern Mo Queen Dowager? The birthday celebration is just an excuse. The most important thing was that he finally had the qualifications and strength to meet this crown prince of Northern Mo. He was determined to get back at this person for all the humiliation he had suffered back then. Big brother. Ollie spread his legs and straightened his body. I'll go with you. Ollie, you're also causing trouble. Ahan glared at his son Ollie in disapproval. Young master. Ahan wanted to say something else. However, Yas raised his hand and stopped the latter half of his sentence. Yas turned around with a cold expression and fiercely flung the black cloak behind him. I've already made up my mind. You don't need to persuade me anymore. Pass down the order. Bring some gifts. We will set off tomorrow. Yas stepped down from the hill and looked up at the clear blue sky. A dark light flitted across his deep eyes. Wait. Damn girl. I said I would come back for you. Wait. He muttered to himself as his tall figure gradually disappeared into the distance. Ollie originally wanted to chase after him, but was stopped by his father Ahan. Don't chase. Since young master has decided, Ollie, you will set off tomorrow to accompany young master to Northern Mo. Remember, at the crucial moment, use your life to protect our young master. Yes, father. Chapter 14:12. Chieftain. Two clansmen carrying wooden bows on their backs rushed over excitedly. Chieftain, we've discovered the figures of the Alava tribe. Oh, these little rats are finally willing to come out of their holes to look for food. Go capture them all. Ahan raised his hand and roared. The roars of the vigorous clansmen instantly echoed in all directions. On the other side, After ACI left the slope, he headed toward the tent area next to the water source. There were many large and small tribes like this in the western wilderness. Each tribe would lead their clansmen to choose a place with abundant water and grass to set up camp and pass their days. However, in recent years, the ecological environment had worsened. The drama of fighting for territory occurred every day in the western wilderness, and people died everywhere. 3 days ago, a small tribe nearby had collectively turned into zombies overnight. Fortunately, he had already come out of seclusion and led his clansmen to quickly and appropriately clean up, preventing the crisis from spreading. ACI pursed his lips and pulled open the curtain of the large tent, with a swish with a handsome face that didn't have a smile on it. A fiery and delicate body pressed against him and wriggled coyly on his body. She called out sweetly, "Big brother ACI." ACI frowned and pulled off the woman clinging to him. He shoved her away. "Go away." His disgust was evident in his words. Akir's small face stiffened. She had deliberately dressed up today to see her big brother ACI. With such stunning looks, no matter who saw her, they would be very attracted to her. However, only her big brother ACI was so disdainful of her from beginning to end. She was the peerless pearl of their Aikido tribe, and the adopted daughter of the chieftain. She had been born proud and outstanding. Whether it was in terms of talent or beauty, she was one of the best among her peers. She was deeply loved by countless men in the Aikido tribe. But now, for this even more outstanding man in front of her, she didn't mind lowering her noble head. "Big brother ACI, I also want to go to Northern Mo with you. I heard others say that Northern Mo's land is vast, with glazed tiles and gold everywhere. I want to see this kind of country. Big brother ACI, we're a large group of men. Why would a woman like you come with us? You won't be able to make it." Yasa's words were full of contempt for Akir. Akir immediately said indignantly, "I'm a level 8 mystic cultivator. In the entire clan, I can be considered to be one of the top few. Big brother, you see, you underestimate me too much. Isn't it just traveling? How can I not keep up with your speed?" Yas glanced at her coldly. "Women should just stay in the tent obediently and wait on people. Don't come out and cause trouble. You don't need to be stronger than a man." Akir's eyes immediately reddened with grievance. She stomped her feet and said, "I'll tell Daddy that I must go with you. You can't get rid of me." After saying this, he lifted the curtain and ran out, almost bumping into a bearded clansman. That clansman immediately laughed and said, "Akir, what's wrong?" Akir ran off without looking back. ACI coldly glanced at her back, but didn't say anything. "Young master." ACI looked up and said to the bearded man, "Prepare to set off tomorrow." "Yes, Sonka will solemnly obey young master's orders." The bearded man placed his hand across his chest and bowed respectfully. Chapter 14:13. Today's weather was exceptionally good, so Arbor had someone bring out the food box and tea. She ate while flipping through medical books in the Eastern Palace's small garden. With a wave of her small hand, a royal maid immediately handed over a plate of cut oranges. The little fellow raised her head and glanced at this royal maid, who had just been transferred to her side, Haitang. In reality, she could tell at a glance that this Haitang should be from the female hidden guard camp. Like Xiaoyao, she was skilled in martial arts. However, compared to the chattering Xiaoyao, this Haitang was much quieter. At such a young age, she was very steady and did things methodically. It was just that she was a bit wooden. "Crown Princess, do you want to change the tea?" Haitang suddenly asked. "All right, change it then." Arbor flipped through a page as she spoke indifferently. "Crown Princess, then Haitang will change it for you. MHM. Arbor watched as she skillfully changed the tea and suddenly asked, "What has the Crown Prince been busy with these past 2 days? Why is he nowhere to be seen all day?" "His Highness the Crown Prince has been busy receiving guests from various countries these past 2 days. There are still 2 days until Her Majesty the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. His Highness the Crown Prince will be very busy." "Oh." Haiding replied stiffly. Arbor pursed her lips. "How many countries have come?" "Northern Wei will arrive at our Mo Kingdom capital today. In this way, all the northern countries, large and small, have basically all arrived. As for the south, the Southern Bailey Kingdom and Southern Shao Kingdom will come. Also, oh okay. Arbor was only casually asking. Her head hurt when she heard Haitang recite the names of the various countries, as if they were her family treasures. It wasn't like she really wanted to get acquainted with them. If she had so much free time, she might as well go to sleep. Miss, Xiao Yao ran over jubilantly, but before she could speak, Arbor teased her. Calm down, my sister-in-law. Xiao Yao's pretty face immediately flushed red. Embarrassed, she rolled her eyes and said, Miss, you're teasing me again. What joke? Your marriage is already on the agenda. Otherwise, the crown prince wouldn't have put Haitang by her side. This was to transfer Haitang, the female hidden guard, to a place where she could order her around. I don't want to talk to you about this. Xiao Yao stomped her feet. I almost forgot about my business because of you. I'm telling you, the princess of the southern Xiao kingdom is here. Arbor's eyes lit up and he quickly asked, Where is it? We're almost at the city gate. Xiao Yao beamed with joy and said, Miss, do you want to go out of the palace and take a look? Today, the streets are even more lively than yesterday. Do I look like someone who likes to join in the fun? Arbor said expressionlessly. Xiao Yao was about to say no fawningly when she heard Haitang's stiff voice suddenly ring out. Yes, Xiao Yao. Oh, big sister, you can't be little master's personal guard like this. Seeing that the little stoic was about to flip out, Xiao Yao quickly said with a smile, Miss, of course you're not someone who likes to join in the fun. Unfortunately, your subordinates like us just like to join in the fun. As she said this, she tugged at Haitang's sleeve and repeatedly signaled her with her eyes. Haitang nodded dumbly. I like to join in the fun the most. Arbor's mouth twitched, and she found it funny on the inside. She waved her slender hand and summoned a huge Qingwan. Let's go. Let's go meet those old acquaintances. She didn't expect that something would go wrong at this moment. Black Monday so tiring. I'm going to sleep tomorrow. Chapter 14-15. A severe glint flitted across the girl called Lily's lowered eyes. She nodded and called out delicately, MHM, I am ready to cooperate with you at any time, second prince. Haha, good. The second prince, Mo Lu, laughed loudly as he pinched her soft buttocks. I just knew that you were a smart person. You didn't waste the large amount of manpower and resources I spent to train you for the better part of a year. Lily will never forget second prince's great kindness to me. Miss Lily called out delicately again. She raised the man's chin with her slender finger and restlessly crawled over the man's protruding Adam's apple. Emolu's heart warmed slightly. When he thought about how he was going to give away such a stunner today, he might as well make the best use of his time. The second prince picked up Miss Lily and strode behind the screen. Miss Lily giggled delicately. Not long after, Miss Lily's light gasps of pleasure could be heard from inside, that the screen was vaguely imprinted with two intertwined figures. The second prince had already lost himself in the passion and was completely intoxicated. However, Miss Lily abruptly turned her eyes away and shot a sharp gaze outside the window. She thought to herself, Wei Mingli, will definitely become outstanding and have boundless glory in this life. Whoever had humiliated her in the past would have to pay back 1,000 times the price in the future, including this second prince who treated her like a plaything. Miss Lily's slender fingers, which were painted red, slid across the back of the second prince's head, causing the man's entire body to tense up instantly. On the other side, Arbor and his servants were sitting in a private room by the window on the second floor. After ordering a pot of tea, they sent the waiter away. This year, a pot of good tea also cost a lot of mystic currency. There was no other reason than that ever since the tea trees were largely contaminated, the tea leaves would only become more and more expensive in the future. Commandery Princess, please. A voice came from behind the curtain. Arbor turned to look and saw Commandery Princess Ian slowly walking in, accompanied by her maidservants Ming Qian and Suer. After not seeing her for so many days, Ian looked haggard. Her palm-sized face was filled with worry, and she looked listless, her eyes very dim. It seemed that as the wedding day approached, her heart was also suffering. However, Arbor did not sympathize with her. She had heard the crown prince mention that this commandery princess and had invited many local ruffians to cause trouble for her on the day of her wedding. If she really got her way, wouldn't the crown prince lose face? In addition, the crown prince secretly suspected that the reason why Ding Yin was able to sneak into the palace that day was because someone had led the way. And this guide was most likely commandery princess Ian. Ian did not notice Arbor and his servants in the small cubicle by the window and headed straight for the private room after entering the tea house. Arbor ignored her and turned his head to look at the bustling scene outside the window. There were guests from various countries entering the Mo Kingdom capital every day these past few days. The people of the Ministry of Rights were very busy making arrangements for the guests' accommodations. At this moment, a commotion could be heard from the northern city gate. The commoners who were watching the commotion all stretched their necks to take a look. They saw a long procession entering the city gate, and the southern Shao Kingdom's flag was mounted on the horse of the person leading the procession. Princess Mi's carriage rolled into the Mo Kingdom capital's northern city gate, under the escort of the crowd. Arbor's eyes lit up, and he was about to fly down when Xiao Yao pressed down on his petite hand. Miss. Chapter 14-16. Xiao Yao couldn't help but want to laugh out loud. Why was her young miss so strange? You suddenly jumped down in public. With so many guards from the southern Shao Kingdom, it would be strange if they didn't think you were an assassin. I was bored and wanted to reminisce about the past. Arbor pointed at Princess Xiaomi, who was surrounded by a thin veil. Xiao Yao's mouth twitched. If you jump down now, the streets will definitely be in chaos. Arbor pursed his lips and leaned against the window with his chin propped up. His eyes flickered as he looked at Princess Mi's carriage. Xiaomi definitely didn't see me now. There are so many people below. Xiao Yao suddenly paused midway and frowned as she looked at the group of people barging into the city gate. Make way, make way, make way. The carriages behind suddenly squeezed through the city gate and attacked the southern Shao Kingdom's guards without any explanation. The southern Shao Kingdom's guards naturally weren't fools and wouldn't passively take a beating. The two sides started pushing and shoving, and it quickly turned into a street brawl. The Assistant Minister of Rights, Huang Yi, was dumbfounded when he saw the situation. He hurriedly ordered his soldiers to go forward and stop the two sides. Everyone, please calm down, calm down. Who dares to attack our southern Shao Kingdom's people so rudely? Xiaomi angrily shouted. She lifted the thin veil curtain and jumped out. Her red dress sparkled under the sunlight, and Princess Mi's eyes revealed a trace of pride. Princess Mi, the Assistant Minister of Rights, Huang Yi, quickly went forward and cupped his hands. Please calm down. Young lord, young lord. Young lord, young lord. Without waiting for Princess Mi to shout a few words in an awe-inspiring manner, the other party's voice, which was obviously more powerful than hers, immediately suppressed the voices of her and the group of weaklings from the southern Shao Kingdom. Fuck, Princess Mi's face was bursting with anger. Where did this fool come from? He just entered the city and already caused such a big commotion. Was he trying to show off his power to Beimoi? Yas was draped in a black cloak. He dismounted from his horse and strode toward Xiaomi. At first glance, Xiaomi felt that this person was somewhat familiar. When her line of sight shifted to the prideful faces of Ali and Akir, she suddenly seemed to recall something. She slapped her thigh and said, Ali, what's your name again? That guy from Aikido. Ali's expression immediately turns furious. He glares at Xiaomi and says, Princess Mi, you dare to be disrespectful to my big brother? This is my big brother, the young chief of the Aikido tribe. You can call him young master ACI. Oh yes, it's you. Xiaomi nodded heavily as if she had been injected with chicken blood. Yasi, it's me. You must be that idiot Yas. The one who was beaten up like a dog by my sister a few years ago. Ha ha ha. I didn't expect that after parting at Shuang City in the west, we would meet again today. Xiaomi's eyes suddenly widened as she stared at the fist that was suddenly thrown at her. For a moment, she even thought that she was hallucinating. What's going on? This person really dared to casually make a move in northernmost territory. The fist was about to fly toward her face. Earth-shattering bear. Gong Sun Yang roared, and immediately summoned the earth-shattering bear to charge forward and block in front of Princess Xiaomi standing motionlessly at the side. Gong Sunlai couldn't help but twitch his mouth speechlessly. "You deserve it. The princess deserves a beating. You said in front of young Master ACI that he was beaten like a dog previously. Who wouldn't beat you up on the spot?" Arbor abruptly flew down from the window. Chapter 14:17. At that time, Xiaoyao didn't even have the time to grab her. She could only watch helplessly as her little mistress heroically jumped down. She and Haiting looked at each other in dismay. Bam! Arbor jumped in front of Xiaomi and patted her shoulder, without waiting for her to return to her senses. "Are you all right, Princess Me? Little sister?" Xiaomi was startled for a moment before excitedly grabbing her little hand. "Oh my, you really scared this old lady to death just now. I didn't expect that temperamental fellow to be so shameless. He actually made a move on a beautiful girl like me in public." Arbor. Why did she keep feeling that Princess Me was innately hilarious? When she saw her, it was as if all her worries would disappear without a trace. Sometimes this fellow was so naive that it was almost frightening. "All right, beautiful girl. I'll send you to the guest house." Arbor patted her hand. Xiaomi giggled in response. "Sure. You don't know how travel-worn I was on the way here. I'm about to die from exhaustion." "Stop." Suddenly, a cold voice interrupted the conversation between the two. Xiaomi wrinkled her nose as if she thought of something. She tugged at Arbor's sleeve and lowered her voice. "Little sister, do you still recognize that person?" Arbor coldly glanced at ACI. That gaze was as if she was looking at a stranger, causing Assie's heart to sink with a thump. How could this be? To think that the person he had been thinking about all this time did not even have the slightest impression of him when they met again. Therefore, he stopped her with a look of displeasure on his face. Arbor used her gaze to ask Xiaomi, "Who is this person?" Back in the Mystic Beast Forest, Xiaomi already knew that this little sister of hers had long since forgotten someone like ACI. What was more unbearable than being completely forgotten by someone? Xiaomi shook her head and sighed. She quietly muttered to her, "Do you still remember Shuang City? Back then you captured a medicine man." "It's you." Arbor turned around to glare at ACI in astonishment. Yasa's eyes lit up, but he instantly noticed the displeasure in the little girl's eyes. Because Arbor recalled that it was this person in front of her who led the Falcon battle team to Shuang City's entrance and threw bamboo needles at her, Morong Sun, and the others, attacking people without any explanation. This person was extremely detestable. Arbor glanced at him disdainfully and immediately pulled Xiaomi away. He didn't even bother to look at Yas now. Yasi exploded with anger. However, before he could say anything, Ollie had already jumped out and roared, "Didn't you hear me tell you to stop? The likes of you want to keep me here?" The little stoic couldn't help but be enraged and abruptly stomped her foot. The Assistant Minister of Rights, Huang Yi, had a bad premonition. Sure enough, he saw layers of earth rolling up from under their feet, directly pouncing towards Ollie. "Ollie!" Akir cried out in alarm. Just as she was about to take a step away, she saw several palm-sized hands in the soil. They abruptly grabbed her dress and firmly fixed her in place. "Ah!" Akir shrieked in terror. It was too late to take care of things in the blink of an eye. ACI leaped to his younger brother Ali's side and pushed him aside. He then conjured a layer of earth with his palm, hastily suppressing the layers of earth waves that Xiaomu had sent out. A thick earth defense rose from the ground in front of Ollie, protecting him from any harm. Chapter 14:18. When he looked up again, he saw that Arbor had already pulled Xiaomi far away. ACI couldn't figure out what he was thinking. He stood dazedly on the street like this with mixed feelings in the depths of his heart. However, Akir was already so angry that she couldn't choose her words carefully. How can this woman be so loathsome? She was already loathsome enough when they met in the Mystic Beast Forest, making people feel uncomfortable all over. He didn't expect to meet her again on the Emo Kingdom capital's North Main Street. This woman's loathsome level had clearly increased quite a bit compared to before. Assistant Minister of Rights Huang Yi's expression darkened, and he cupped his hands at Akir and said, "Miss, please be careful with your words." Do not be disrespectful to our northern prince Mo's consort. In other words, if you dare to be so disrespectful again, I won't be polite to you. Akir couldn't help but be taken aback, and then her heart relaxed slightly. She inwardly thought, that damn girl is already married. Marrying is good. Marrying is good. After marrying, she wouldn't fight with her for Big Brother Assie's favor anymore. She believed that as long as she stayed by Big Brother Assie's side, there would come a day when Big Brother ACI would understand her goodness. Akir smiled softly. Just as she was about to snuggle up to Yas, he unexpectedly shot her a cold glance. Her footsteps froze, and she froze on the spot. ACI was about to be annoyed to death by this woman. She followed him around all day with a courtship look, and didn't even draw a basin of water to look at herself in the mirror. She looked like a vixen, and wasn't the woman he liked at all. The woman he liked was definitely with dots. I was slightly taken aback, and abruptly realized that when he thought of the woman he liked, the little stoic's face once again inexplicably surfaced in his heart. What was there to like about the little stoic, this unlikable damn girl? ACI irritably raised his hand and scratched his head. He turned around and mounted his horse. Without saying anything, he whipped his horse and galloped away at lightning speed. Miss Lily stroked the hair on her temples and walked out of the Rui Pavilion. When her sharp gaze swept over Arbor and Xiaomi's departing figures, she recognized Arbor almost immediately. It was her. That arrogant and insufferably arrogant bitch who used His Highness the Crown Prince's power to kick her, Wei Mingli, out the door. She would always remember that expressionless face of hers. Miss Lily's eyes narrowed as she grinned with a gloomy expression. Then, she walked gracefully towards a luxurious carriage parked in front of the Rui Pavilion. Mingli? You are Mingli, right? Suddenly, a dark and thin old woman stumbled through the crowd and rushed in front of her. She grabbed her wrist excitedly. Wei Mingli forcefully flung the old woman's hand away in disgust. You've got the wrong person. No, I'm not mistaken. You're Mingli. You're my Mingli. The tanned and skinny woman exclaimed. Mingli, Mingli, I'm your grandmother, Mingli. Mingli, grandmother had a hard time looking for you. A cold glint flitted across Wei Mingli's eyes and transformed into a sharp blood blade in an unseen place. Pa! A crisp slap suddenly landed on Granny Nyo's old face, startling her for a moment. Old woman, have you eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall? You still want to claim kinship? You should draw a basin of water and take a look at your wretched appearance. Can I, Lilier, have such a poor and pedantic relative like you? Wei Mingli pursed her lips and revealed a lofty expression. Granny Nyo was stupefied. Chapter 1419. She originally thought that as long as she cried in front of Wei Mingli would definitely take her in on account that she was her grandmother. Who would have thought? Wei Mingli actually slapped her in the middle of the street. Was this still how a granddaughter should behave? Granny Nyo immediately collapsed to the ground and acted shamelessly like a shrew. She wailed, Granddaughter is unfilial. Granddaughter hit grandmother. Seeing that there was a show to watch, the onlookers immediately surrounded them and pointed at Wei Mingli and Granny Nyo while gossiping. Wei Mingli wasn't angry. Instead, she looked at Granny Nyo on the ground with a sweet smile and said coldly, Do you think that a dignified official's daughter like me would have such a country bumpkin for a grandmother? My father, Wei Zhong, is a second-rank imperial physician in the Imperial Physician Building. His medical skills are renowned far and wide. My grandmother is naturally enjoying life at home right now. Why would she be like this old woman, throwing a tantrum and rolling around on the streets? Wei Mingli harumphed coldly and swept a disdainful glance at Granny Nyo. Why aren't you dragging this ignorant thing away? Two page boys immediately ran up from behind Wei Mingli and fiercely dragged the throwing tantrum Granny Nyo off the ground, about to drag her away. Granny Nyo hugged the carriage shaft tightly and screamed, Murder! Murder! Granddaughter killed grandmother. Ah! Granny! Madame Nebo, who had been hiding in the crowd for a long time, saw that the time was ripe and immediately rushed out to support her grandmother. She looked at Wei Mingli and scolded her. Mingli, you shouldn't have done this. Even if you have a foster father now and have a meteoric rise, you can't forget that your biological grandmother is still living in an abyss of suffering. Wei Mingli chuckled. Then what do you think I should do? Of course it's. Before Madame Bo could say anything improper, she heard Wei Mingli's cold voice. What are you all still standing there for? Hurry and chase these 2 village women away. Go, 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 go. Several page boys immediately walked out of Rui Pavilion and chased away Madame Ne Nyo and Madame Ne Bo, who were wailing and shouting at Wei Mingli. Go. No, don't chase us away. Mingli. Mingli. The cries grew further and further away. After Wei Mingli boarded the carriage, she immediately put down the curtain in her hand and waved her hand in annoyance. Let's go. Proceed according to the original plan. Those 2 good-for-nothings deserve to die in the alley and be fed to the dogs. On the other side, Madame Nyo and Madame Bo, who had been chased away, were beaten up by the manservants. Not only did they not get any benefits, but their bodies also hurt from the beating. The 2 of them scolded Wei Mingli for being unfilial as they walked. When they thought of how their family had ended up like this, and how only the 2 of them were left, they couldn't help but look at each other in sorrow. Granny, I think we should look for Mingli. There's only hope if you follow her. When the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law saw the glamorous Wei Mingli just now, they simply couldn't believe their eyes. Ever since their entire family was chased out of the Marquis's estate with old Madame Chiao, their luck had deteriorated day by day, and their lives were not as good as before. Therefore, when they saw Wei Mingli, who had disappeared for almost half a year, suddenly become so rich, they simply couldn't believe their eyes. Mingli is so ruthless. I think she won't acknowledge us anymore. Granny Nyo sighed. Then what should we do, Granny? Chapter 1420. The 2 abruptly stopped in their tracks as they stared in horror at the dozen or so local ruffians surrounding them with clubs. Who are you people? The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law hugged each other as they trembled, a bad premonition slipping through their hearts. When Wei Mingli left just now, they both noticed the hint of loathing and hatred she was suppressing in her eyes. Is it like this? But the 2 of them were at least her only remaining close relatives in this world. Brothers attack. Our employer said it. Beat them to death. Ha 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 ha. A group of ferocious ruffians rushed forward and surrounded the 2 powerless women. They raised their clubs and gave them a good beating without any explanation. Soon, a personal guard appeared in Wei Mingli's carriage, reporting to Miss, those 2 old women have already been beaten to death in the back alley by the local ruffians. Their corpses were fed to the wild dogs. Excitement flitted across Wei Mingli's eyes, and she nodded. Well done. She would repay these people who had tormented her in all sorts of ways, and treated her terribly in the past bit by bit. Just wait. A shrewd glint flitted across Wei Mingli's eyes, and she lifted the curtain. She saw a carriage hurrying over on the official road across from them. Wei Mingli abruptly let go of the curtain and took a deep breath. Get ready. Emo Lien had received definite news the moment he came out of the town hall, that his little crown princess had run off on Qingwan. Thus, he decided to head to the North City Gate to find his wifey, and also welcome the late second prince of Southern Bailey Shi. However, the carriage had just stepped onto the official road of North Main Street, and hadn't gone far when another carriage suddenly sped over. The accompanying guards' faces darkened, and they were just about to step forward and shout for these 2 bold carriages to stop and not disturb His Highness the Crown Prince's grand self. Unexpectedly, a startling change occurred in that instant. A wheel suddenly flew out of the oncoming carriage, and the entire carriage swerved and crashed straight into Prince Mo's carriage. If they were hit head-on, Prince Mo's carriage would also be knocked askew. Then should he still go and fetch his wife? Should he meet Bailey Shi? Emo Lien put down the bamboo tube in her hand and put back the information she had received from the other bases. As soon as she raised her head, she heard the coachman's terrified roar. The carriage immediately tilted to one side, until there was a loud crash. Emo Lien suddenly saw darkness in front of his eyes, as if another carriage was pressing down on his carriage. Crown Prince Mo's carriage driver shrieked in fright, and he steered the carriage to adjust repeatedly. However, the other party's carriage was firmly pressed against their carriage like this, so no matter how he steered, the carriage still tilted in one direction. Boom! Prince Emo naturally wouldn't stay in the carriage like an idiot. After gathering all the information in the carriage into his inner world, he broke through the roof of the carriage and exited. At this moment, a slender figure also climbed out of her own window. She was about to stumble into the crown prince's arms. The group of guards running after the carriage shouted angrily, "Your Highness!" They saw His Highness valiantly kick away the woman who had fallen to his side. That no one else could do this. Everyone thought. Only their crown prince could do such an unreliable thing. Such a delicate girl. She must have had 8 lifetimes of bad luck. They saw the person who flew out in a parabola with a piu. She flew far away and landed heavily on the ground. She would probably have a nosebleed from the fall. I'll be busy until Friday. I might have to move it to Saturday, depending on the situation. Goodbye, Wave. Chapter 1421. The guards swarmed forward to check on the woman who was sprawled on the ground and hadn't moved for a long time. A guard hurriedly stepped forward and said, "Your Highness, she's fainted." What a joke. How many people in this world could withstand a flying kick from His Highness? Perhaps this unlucky woman still hadn't figured out how she had flown out. Miss, who are you people? Why are you treating my miss like this?" The coachman crawled over and cried out in a panic. Prince Emo glanced at him. Then his gaze landed on the other party's hands. That coachman reflexively looked down. There was nothing else in his 2 chubby hands that were as white as radishes. Emolian curled her lips mockingly. She turned and leaped onto the horse that the guards had brought over, and rushed toward North Main Street, without looking back. Cough, cough, cough. When Wei Mingli woke up, she felt an excruciating pain in her chest. That man's flying kick just so happened to land right on her chest, making her feel as if her chest was about to collapse in that instant. My heavens! How could there be such an insensitive man in this world? When he saw a delicate beauty throwing herself into his arms, his first reaction wasn't to reach out and embrace her, but to kick her out? Where exactly did this weirdo come from? Wei Mingli coughed several times. She was about to struggle and asked the coachman to help her up when she suddenly saw a swarm of guards rush in front of them and press the 2 of them to kneel on the ground with long and short knives. Wei Mingli was so angry that her pretty face instantly flushed pink. The moment she spoke, she tossed aside the pretense of delicateness from before. What are you doing? What do you want to do?" None of the guards paid any attention to her. They simply lifted the 2 of them up, tied them up, and threw them onto horses. Then, they yelled and shouted as they headed in the direction of the Ministry of Justice's prison. The moment Wei Mingli saw the words Ministry of Justice appear before her eyes, she was stupefied. She was so angry that her entire body trembled uncontrollably. It wasn't fear. It was truly anger. That weirdo was actually so resolute in his actions. Not only did he kick her on the street, but he was also attempting to imprison her in the Ministry of Justice's prison. This forced her to lower her head and examine herself again. Wasn't she beautiful? In the past half a year, whether it was her temperament or her beauty, she had steadily improved by more than 1 level. Thus, even the second prince was mesmerized by her beauty. But now, Wei Mingli and the coachman were dragged into the Ministry of Justice's dungeon. Without another word, the prison guards tied the 2 of them to the 2 pillars used for interrogating prisoners in the dungeon lobby. A prison guard swung a whip soaked in chilly water and smiled fiercely at her and the coachman. Wei Mingli's hair stood on end. The whip lashed down, and the coachman let out a squeal like a pig. TSK, TSK, TSK. The guard commander stood at the side and watched, his eyes filled with disdain. You've only been lashed once, and you're already screaming like that. How many more lashes do you think you can take? Brother. No, don't hit me, don't hit me. I'm just a cart driver. Everything was instigated by Miss. It was the young Miss who instigated it. As soon as that carriage driver finished speaking, Wei Mingli, who was tied to another pillar, was so angry that she couldn't stop kicking him. You coward, what did you say? Hit her, hit her. It really has nothing to do with me. This lowly one is just a hired passerby, sob, sob, sob. Chapter 1422. Beat him. At the guard commander's command, The whip dipped in chilly water lashed the coachman's body again and again, until he was charred on the outside and tender on the inside. It was only then that Wei Mingli felt scared. Her body, which was tied to the pillar, trembled nonstop against the pillar. She was truly scared. That day, when she saw His Highness the Crown Prince chase them out of the Marquis of Jiyuan's estate, she should have known that this Crown Prince was very cold-blooded and heartless. He wasn't someone to be trifled with at all. But there was no medicine for regret in this world. Before she tried, she thought that she would definitely capture this man's heart with her beauty and figure. It was only after she tried that she realized how naive she and His Highness the Second Prince were. This mission that His Highness the Second Prince assigned was simply impossible to complete, because His Highness the Crown Prince was completely heartless and extremely cold. He wouldn't be moved by her, Wei Mingli, because she was a woman, and he definitely wouldn't be intoxicated by her beauty and be unable to extricate himself like other men. How terrifying! Wei Mingli shuddered all over and reflexively swallowed. At this time, the jailer had already knocked out the white, fat man next to her. He was in a rather wretched state. His perfectly fine white robes hung in strips on his body, and whip wounds covered his face, body, and the back of his hands. At this time, he was already breathing out more than he was breathing in. "Miss, it's your turn now. See, are you going to confess properly? Or are you going to be fiercely whipped like this man, before confessing properly?" The jailer's eyes roamed over her voluptuous body, as he spoke with a wicked smile. Wei Mingli only felt her body tense, and an unprecedented nervousness crept into her heart. Her eyes stared helplessly at the whip in the jailer's hand, and before he could raise it high she shrieked, I'll confess everything. It'll be fine as long as you confess." The guard commander on the side put his hands on his hips and took the whip from the jailer's hand. He patted it in his hand and said, "Speak. Who sent you here to trick His Highness?" Wei Mingli shuddered and stammered, "I'll speak. It's the Second Prince. I'm a songstress in the Second Prince's estate." The guard leader was stunned for a moment before he laughed. "Do you know where your biggest flaw is? A coachman who has been driving a carriage for many years. His entire body is white and fat. Not to mention that His Highness doesn't believe you. Even with my eyesight, I can tell that something is wrong with you." Wei Mingli's face was ashen. The white fatty was a small steward in the Second Prince's residence. He was the brother of the Second Prince's favorite concubine, and was usually trusted by the Second Prince. The mission of getting close to the Eastern Palace was very important, and Mo Lu still didn't quite trust her. Thus, she had originally planned to have this plump and fair steward follow her into the Eastern Palace. Under the guise of assisting her, he would actually monitor her and prevent her from forgetting her original mission once she was in the Eastern Palace. Unexpectedly, although the Second Prince's plan was good, the Crown Prince was too powerful and saw through it with a single glance. Wei Mingli didn't know what to think. What do you want?" Wei Mingli's heart was trembling. She didn't expect that not only would she not be able to get half a step closer to the Crown Prince, she would even be thrown into prison. Wei Mingli shuddered as she watched the guard commander bring people over to untie her and the white fatty. "Officials, this little girl knows her mistake. Stop talking, let's go." The guard commander gave her a shove. Chapter 1423. Wei Mingli's nerves were taut as she staggered forward. She glanced to the side and saw that the fair fatty was like a dead pig. After he was put down from the pillar, his head drooped as he was dragged forward. What are you doing?" Wei Mingli asked, trembling. The guard commander and his entourage didn't say anything else to her. They directly dragged the two people onto their horses and rode toward the Second Prince's estate while yelling. On the other end, Mo Lu smugly stepped into his house. His happiness lasted for less than an hour. He saw the steward run inside in a panic and shout, Master! Something happened, the main entrance." The Second Prince's expression changed slightly, and he hastily followed the steward to the main entrance. As he walked, he anxiously asked, "What happened?" "Miss Lily has returned." "Lily?" The Second Prince's face instantly darkened. His first thought was, Lily actually failed. She really was a good-for-nothing. How long had it been? And she was already back. Did she not encounter his good sixth brother at all? Or did she not manage to get close to anyone else at all? The second prince thought about how he had painstakingly groomed Wei Mingli for the better part of a year. But she was actually of no use at all at the crucial moment. Thus, he stomped out of the main entrance with a belly full of anger. He saw a junior commander dressed in royal guard attire, standing at the bottom of the steps with a fake smile, and saluting him from afar. Second prince. This lowly officer is here to deliver a gift in return on His Highness the Crown Prince's orders. Open it. At the junior commander's command, 3 to 4 royal guards immediately dragged the person down from the horse and directly threw her at the second prince's estate's entrance. The second prince looked down and saw Wei Mingli curling up and rolling on the ground. She scrambled up the steps with all her might as she wailed mournfully, "Your Highness." Then he looked at that fair and fat junior steward. He had actually been beaten to the point that there wasn't a single piece of unharmed flesh on his body. The second prince couldn't help but be stupefied when he saw this. This wasn't a failure at all. Rather, the crown prince had seen through her identity, right? How long had it been? He had painstakingly cultivated such a beauty for half a year. Originally, he wanted to use her as a delicate chess piece and secretly place her in the crown prince's residence. He had thought that in the future, this little chess piece would surely be able to take a stunning step forward. But he never expected that all his previous efforts would be wasted today. In less than 2 hours, Wei Mingli was exposed by the crown prince and thrown back to the second prince's estate. The second prince only felt that his face was unbearably painful. It was as if someone had smeared chili oil on his face, causing him to feel a burst of burning irritation. Could it be that Mo Lu's IQ was actually so much lower than six brothers? The second prince couldn't accept it no matter how hard he tried. He just stood there in a daze at the entrance of the second prince's residence. He didn't even know when the group of people who had come to deliver the gifts mounted their horses and left. His eyes were fixed on one spot, and his mind was completely blank. Other than the sound of Wei Mingli's cries filling his head, he felt as if countless ghostly hands were pulling at his brain and screaming, "Show off." It was a blatant demonstration. The second prince choked on a mouthful of blood and rolled his eyes to the sky. Unable to withstand the stimulation, he fell backward and landed in front of the gate with a thud. Oh no, the second prince fainted from anger. Hurry and come. Hurry and go to the palace to summon the imperial physician to treat him. Your Highness, Your Highness. The second prince's estate was instantly thrown into chaos. Chapter 1424. On the other side, His Highness the Crown Prince, who had just finished giving his second royal brother a big gift, finally felt a bit more at ease. This wondrous second prince simply disgusted him to death. He simply couldn't understand how his second royal brother's brain worked. How could he be this stupid? How did he think of secretly grooming a songstress, wanting to fish in troubled waters, and toss her into his eastern palace as a spy, without anyone knowing? Did he think that everyone was as stupid as him? What kind of person did he think he was? A random chance encounter on the street was enough to make him willingly bring that woman back to the eastern palace? It was still the same question. What was his second royal brother thinking? This second royal brother was probably really a fool. So he thought that everyone was a fool that after being delayed by Wei Mingli. When Mo Lian rushed to North Street, Darling Xiao had already pulled Princess Xiaomi back to the guest house to stay. Prince Mo hastily ran over to pick up his wifey, but instead of his wifey, he picked up the icy-faced Bailey Shi. I'm honored that Your Highness the Crown Prince personally came to welcome me. Bailey Shi cupped his hands towards His Highness and said expressionlessly, His Highness the Crown Prince. That he inwardly criticized. Don't flatter yourself. We didn't come to pick you up. On the surface, he raised a smile that was like a spring breeze. Second Prince Bailey, long time no see. You're still as elegant as ever. Bailey she nodded. Crown Prince praises me too much. Hey, you too. How long has it been since we last met? You keep calling me Your Highness the Crown Prince and Second Prince Bailey. Aren't you tired and annoying? A mocking laughter came from the side. Wei Nanfeng was like a monkey as he rolled down from a roof and arrived in front of the two with a grin. I heard that you were entering the city today, so I came to welcome you. How is it? I'm a good brother, right? Wei Namfeng stepped forward and elbowed Bailey Shi's arm. Let's go. We haven't seen each other in a while. Let's find a place to drink. At this time, Assistant Minister of Rights Huang Yi also rushed over after hearing the news. When he saw the Crown Prince, he hurriedly went forward to greet him. The Crown Prince swept a glance at Assistant Minister Huang and asked seemingly absent-mindedly, "Have you seen the Crown Princess?" Yes. Assistant Minister Huang nodded repeatedly. Hearing this, Emolien's eyes suddenly lit up. Where is she now? The Crown Princess accompanied the Princess of the Southern Shao Kingdom to the guest hotel. Hey! Wei Nanfeng's body flashed as he extended his hand to block Emolien's path. Emolien, you can't be serious. We brothers have only met for less than half an hour. And you want to leave? Prince Emo immediately waved his hand and said, I'll have tea with you some other day. What a joke. What was there to talk about with these two stinky men? Of course, finding his own wife was more important. After he finished speaking, he waved his hand and left the two men behind without looking back. He mounted his horse and galloped towards the guest house in the capital. Bailey Shi and Wei Namfeng were left behind. They looked at each other in dismay and shook their heads in unison. They sighed inwardly. Emolien, this guy, why did he become more clingy with the little stoic after not seeing him for so many years? But speaking of which, they hadn't seen that little stoic for a long time. So how about? The two of them exchanged a look, mounted their horses in unison, and followed after him. After Arbor saw that Princess Xiaomi had settled down, he chatted with her for a while before coming out of the guest house. Before she could board the carriage, she heard the clip-clop of horse hooves, and a familiar voice called out to her from afar. Jojo. Chapter 1425. Arbor was exasperated as she watched Prince Emo gallop over on his horse. Just as he was about to reach her, that guy suddenly flew up and arrived beside her with a swish. He cried out pitifully, Jojo, it's bad. Hubby was almost taken advantage of by a scoundrel. Hurry and comfort hubby's nearly injured body and mind. Arbor, that she couldn't take it anymore. Ever since they got married, this guy's skin had become increasingly thicker, and she couldn't reverse it no matter what. Arbor reflexively hugged his waist and patted it with her small hand. What scoundrel? Emolien hastily recounted everything that happened just now from beginning to end to his wife. After he was done, he even took credit for it in front of his wife. Jojo, am I smart or not? Say, is this Emolu stupid or not? Or did he get the confidence to think that he could fool me with this kind of underhanded trick? Darling Xiao was a bit angry. Wasn't this Emolu punished by the great king and grounded for 3 months? How come he can come out now? You know the old man. It's impossible for him to enforce orders and prohibitions. It's already good enough that he didn't change his orders constantly. When Emolien saw her serious expression, he quickly pinched her small face in amusement. Don't worry, hubby has always been careful and prudent. I absolutely won't be taken away by a scoundrel. Arbor pursed her small lips. Where are those 2 people? I sent people to throw them back to the second prince's estate. It's not like I can keep them for dinner. Apparently, second royal brother was so angry that he fainted. Serves him right. A cold glint flitted through Arbor's eyes. He got off easy. Of course I can't let him off easy like this. This guy is so good at jumping around. I'll find something for him to do. Oh, as expected, he forgets his brothers after getting a wife. Bailey, look, I guess correctly. I knew this guy abandoned us and ran off. He must have come to see the little stoic. MHM. Bailey nodded expressionlessly. The two of them hadn't seen the little girl for a while, and they couldn't help but marvel in amazement when they saw her today. What an icy beauty with a face as bright as the moon and eyes as cold as the stars. After this little stoic grew up, she seemed to make people unable to take their eyes off her. What are you looking at? Emolien pettily hooked his hand and pulled his wifey into his arms. Xiao, ignore them. We're going home. Arbor nonchalantly nodded his head. His gaze only swept over Wei Nanfeng and Bailey Shi's faces before withdrawing. Too heartless. Wei Nanfeng let out a howl. Arbor turned a blind eye to him. He turned back to look at Bailey Shi and nodded. Thank you for the ebony pieces. It's no trouble at all. Bailey Shi nodded with an indifferent expression. This is for you. The little stoic waved her hand, and a brocade pouch landed in Bailey Shi's hand. I see that you're about to break through to level 13. There are 2 level 13 mystic breakthrough pills in the bottle, which should be able to help you break through smoothly. Although the little stoic was expressionless, her words seemed to stir up 1,000 ripples. Bailey Shi and Wei Nanfeng were both flabbergasted, especially our dear Wei Nanfeng, who was originally waving the folding fan in his hand flirtatiously and confidently. He was so frightened by Arbor's words that his fan fell to the ground with a clatter. His entire person seemed to have been struck by lightning, and he was blown away by the wind. Princess Mi said that you two are about to get married, so this can be considered my wedding gift to you in advance. Chapter 1426. You're getting married? Wei Nanfeng and Emolian simultaneously turned to look at the stupefied Bailey Shi. Bailey Shi had yet to wake up from the ecstasy of receiving 2 level 13 mystic breakthrough pills, when he instantly sunk into the stupefied state of getting married. How come he didn't know when he was actually getting married? The little stoic pattered forward at this time, and patted Bailey Shi's shoulder forcefully. Xiaomi is pretty good. You're an ice cube and don't like to talk, while Xiaomi is chatty all day long. You won't be oppressed in the future, so the two of you just happen to complement each other. Treat her well. The 3 men present. Uffed. Wei Nanfeng burst out laughing at an inappropriate time. The little stoic promptly swept him a disdainful glance. What would a person without a wife like you know? You still have the face to laugh at others. Just be a bachelor for the rest of your life. Wei Nanfeng. Ha 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 ha. Emolian truly couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. He flashed forward and pulled his wifey into his embrace. Jojo my Jojo. Wei Nanfeng couldn't help but be speechless. Hey brother, why don't you say something about your wife? Why is it that after so many years, she still doesn't like me? Look, she gave away 2 precious level 13 mystic breakthrough pills to Bailey Shi in one go. As for him, he wouldn't be hurt if he didn't make a comparison, but once he did, he would simply be infuriated to death. Not only did he not get the mystic breakthrough pills, but he was also dissed by the little stoic. So what if he got married? Alright, you guys should also get off the bed and rest early. Tomorrow, I'll have someone show you around the city. Grandmother will summon you the day after tomorrow. After Prince Emo finished speaking, he pulled his wifey's hand and galloped away on his horse with her in his arms. Wei Nanfeng couldn't help but be a bit envious when he saw the 2 of them glued to each other like glue and honey. He grumbled, if I knew earlier, I would have married a considerate wife as soon as possible. Then I wouldn't have been poked in the heart by the stoic today. Bailey Shi put away the brocade pouch containing the 2 level 13 mystic breakthrough pills and walked straight into the guest house. When Wei Nanfeng saw this, he couldn't help but shout angrily from behind. Hey you Bailey Shi, don't you know how to comfort your brother? What an ungrateful fellow. One day later, the Empress Dowager's grand birthday banquet began in Jinxiu Garden of the Longevity Palace. The officials of the 3rd rank and above had already brought their beautiful wives and daughters to the main hall of the Jinxiu Garden in the Longevity Palace. The eunuch in charge shouted, Northern Wei's 3rd prince congratulates the Empress Dowager on her birthday. A pair of Wanghai pearls and a dendrobium of white jade pearls. Southern Bailey's 2nd Highness wishes the Empress Dowager a long life. Groups of guests from various countries walked into the hall with smiles on their faces and rosy cheeks. The Empress Dowager was sitting on the main seat at the top of the steps. She was dressed in bright red, smiling as she looked at the people from all walks of life who came to congratulate her. Feng Gu stood next to the Empress Dowager, and occasionally bent over to explain to the elderly lady which country's guests were standing in the main hall. Today was the joyous day of her 70th birthday. The Empress Dowager was in great spirits. She couldn't stop smiling as she looked at the hall full of children and grandchildren. The Aikido tribe's young chieftain wishes the Empress Dowager a happy birthday. Present. The Alava tribe's little princess congratulates the Empress Dowager on her birthday. Present. One after another, greetings and gifts were announced. One after another, one after another, and one after another continuously. Everyone beamed from ear to ear as they looked at this prosperous scene. Arbor sat next to the crown prince and looked on indifferently. However, when he heard the eunuch announce the Alava tribe's name, his eyelids twitched slightly. Broken sleep. Chapter 1427. The Alava tribe. There was an indescribable sense of familiarity. Arbor was just thinking about how he had heard of this tribe's name before, when he saw a red figure leading a dozen or so men and women of different tribes walk into the main hall. This red-clothed girl was about 18 years old. She wore a neat scarlet riding outfit and a pair of black riding boots. Her long hair was tied up, revealing a small, spotlessly white face that resembled a full moon. There was a small, extremely familiar dimple on her left cheek. Arbor's eyes bulged, and he stood up from his seat, almost out of control. The crown prince was taken aback, and he looked up at his wifey, who suddenly stood up. At this time, the red-clothed girl also seemed to have noticed Arbor, who had abruptly stood up. When she clearly saw the girl's little stoic face, her eyes instantly turned round. However, before she could quickly walk up to meet Xiao Mu, a brawny man with an unshaven beard suddenly walked out from the Aikido tribe's team in front of her. He gave her a boorish smile before saying disdainfully, "Haha, the little rats of the Alava tribe actually have the courage to walk out of their tiny caves and come to northernmost territory. How did you hide along the way?" The people of the Aikido tribe roared with laughter, completely disregarding whether they attracted the attention of the other guests, as they publicly berated the red-clothed girl from the Alava tribe. The red-clothed girl unsheathed her sword and slapped it on the brawny man's chest, pushing him back with all her might. She said with an icy expression, "Today is Northernmost Queen Dowager's birthday, so this girl won't lower herself to your level." Scram. The Aikido tribe's brawny man with the stubble immediately jumped up and furiously swung his fist at the red-clothed girl. His action incurred the displeasure of Northernmost officials, and they all looked at him coldly with suppressed anger in their eyes. However, because he was a guest, and the great king and the queen dowager had yet to speak, they naturally couldn't be the first to criticize him. Swish, 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 smack. A crafty green vine drilled out of nowhere and directly transformed into the shadow of a whip, fiercely whipping the brawny man's elbow-sized fist. Ow, ow! The brawny man howled uncontrollably as a bloody mark appeared on his fist after being hit by this blow. Among the people present, some of the sects and family heads who were invited couldn't help but twitch their mouths. Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes again. This unlucky man could have made a move in front of anyone, but he actually dared to be so arrogant in front of the little crown princess. Although most people didn't know who did it, they were all secretly pleased. The people of the Aikido tribe actually disregarded their dignity and attacked another group of guests from northern Moi at the Queen Dowager's banquet. They should indeed be taught what etiquette was. Who attacked me? Who? The bearded man angrily turned his head, his gaze searching the hall back and forth. Everyone was glaring at him with sullen faces. Even the Empress Dowager, who had been smiling all the time, suddenly darkened her face. Her somewhat angry gaze fell on the big man's face. The great king slammed the table and said angrily, "Who are you? How can you be so rude?" The bearded man was still somewhat respectful and fearful of the great king of northern Moi. When he heard this, he hastily crossed his chest and bowed respectfully to the great king. "Honorable northern Moi great king, this lowly one is the chiliarch of the Aikido tribe Kaisen. This lowly one has come with our young chief to offer birthday gifts to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager of northern Moi." Chapter 1428. I was actually attacked for no reason at this time. As the great king of northern Mo, shouldn't you give this lowly one an explanation? After all, this lowly one is a guest of northern Mo, and your great Mo kingdom has a duty to protect me. Everyone couldn't help feeling indignant at Kaisen's rascally appearance. Give you a bullshit explanation. You were the first to attack someone at the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet, and you still have reason? Now that someone had secretly attacked you, You actually have the face to complain tearfully to the great king for an explanation? The people from the Aikido tribe standing to the side didn't make a sound. Instead, they watched all of this with interest. The Aikido tribe had always been the most powerful tribe in the Western wastelands. Their people never needed to beg for mercy or shed tears. Whatever they encountered, they would directly face it by themselves. Kaizen was their Aikido tribe's chiliarch, and a valiant level 13 body cultivator. They believed that with Kaizen's ability, he definitely wouldn't be at a disadvantage. However, they seemed to be overly confident. I'll give you an explanation. An icy voice came from the front of the main hall. A red figure flashed, and the person landed in front of Kaizen. There wasn't the slightest bit of expression on her snow-white face, and there was only a solemn and chilly air. Kaizen was taken aback, and a trace of amazement suddenly rose in his eyes. However, before he could tease her, an enormous force suddenly attached itself to his body. Kaizen was greatly shocked, completely not expecting that this little girl would actually attack as she pleased. Before he could say anything, he was lifted up by the enormous force and fell out of the main hall. Kaizen simply didn't know what was going on. However, everyone else in the main hall saw everything clearly, and without a shadow of a doubt. The young crown princess didn't allow any explanation, as she sent a palm flying through the air. Dense mystic energy slapped Kaizen's body, sending him flying out. Just one move was enough to send a level 13 body cultivator flying like a little chick. The force behind that slap was probably at least 1,000 pounds. The expressionless little crown princess dashed out of the main hall in a single stride. Before the unlucky Kaizen could get up from the ground, a palm formed by the earth spirit firmly covered his body. At the same time, everyone in the main hall rushed out like a swarm of bees. To watch, Kaizen was slapped by an earth spirit's palm and sunk into a flower bed of various sizes, forming a rather ridiculous human-shaped pit. He spat out a mouthful of blood as nourishment for the flower bed. Cough, cough, cough. Kaizen looked at the little girl in shock. He had never imagined that he, a 13th level body cultivator, would be unable to withstand a single blow from this little girl. What was going on? Even if this little girl had started to absorb the heaven and earth profound energy in her mother's womb, she shouldn't have grown to this extent. Arbor took out an ice sword that glinted with awe-inspiring light. He looked at him coldly and said, "Today is grandmother's birthday. I'll spare your life. Don't provoke me. You won't be able to bear the consequences." The little stoic calmly threw down this sentence before turning around and walking towards the woman in red. Unexpectedly, the woman cried out in alarm. "Junior sister, be careful." "Kaizen, stop right there." ACI bellowed angrily. Kaizen swept over from behind with a sinister and malicious glint in his eyes. He clenched his fists and hammered two enormous forces at the back of the young crown princess's head. Chapter 1429. You're courting death. A cold glint flashed through Prince Mo's eyes, and he was about to fly to the little stoic's side. However, he saw the little stoic's figure abruptly vanish from the spot. Kaizen's 2 punches missed, and he staggered forward a few steps with a stupefied expression. At this time, the young chief of the Aikido tribe, ACI, had already arrived at his side, and gave Kaizen a heavy slap across the face without allowing for an explanation. "Didn't you hear me tell you to stop? Who gave you the guts to kill her?" Kaizen clutched his swollen left cheek and shrunk his neck submissively. In the blink of an eye, they saw the little crown princess jump down from the main hall's roof. Everyone stared at her stupefied. They looked at the place she disappeared from, and the main hall's roof. Fuck, that was a huge distance away. They couldn't figure out how she could jump down from the roof. Emo Lien arrived beside her in a flash and grasped her small hand. He knew that this little fellow was holding back for grandmother's sake. Other people didn't know what was going on, but the discerning people present were very clear that the little crown princess had used a talisman. Arbor had precisely used a teleportation talisman to teleport away, because she was worried that if this continued, she wouldn't be able to control herself, and would slaughter this stinky man on the spot. A weakling actually dared to attack her from behind? This guy was full of flaws. One had to know that in that split second, Arbor had over a dozen ways to make him die on the spot. and he would die a very ugly death. However, she herself would feel extremely disgusted if someone died during grandmother's lively birthday banquet. Not to mention what grandmother would think. Kason didn't know that the Queen Dowager had imperceptibly saved his life. He didn't know what witchcraft the little crown princess had used to quickly teleport him to the roof. He only glanced at the little crown princess before his entire body trembled, and he retracted his gaze. He felt that the little girl's gaze was a bit too sharp and couldn't be looked straight at. Young Chief ACI, if you don't know how to manage your subordinates, this crown prince doesn't mind teaching him a lesson. Emolian glanced at Yasi. Without waiting for him to reply, she took Arbor's little hand and walked back into the hall. Arbor had too many questions that he wanted to ask the woman in red from the Alava tribe. However, celebrating his grandmother's birthday was more important, so he had to put everything on hold for now. It was just that its pair of big eyes would occasionally glance at the face of the red-clothed woman from the Alava tribe. The light in its eyes couldn't be suppressed, and everyone could see it. Situi nodded at the red-clothed woman, fanning himself as he sat in his seat, occasionally exchanging a few words with others. I really didn't expect to see junior sister Doya well after so many years. Liang Qingqing couldn't help but sigh. Back then, when they went to Shisha Valley for the competition, the group of girls from the Holy Water sect were all very familiar with each other. No wonder little junior sister is so happy. Situi stopped fanning and smiled faintly. Sitting at the head seat, the Queen Dowager looked at her grandson and granddaughter-in-law with a grin. She recovered her cheerful expression and nodded repeatedly at the guests who were entering the hall again. The third crown prince of the Eastern Ing Kingdom, Ing Fa, congratulates the Queen Dowager on her birthday. A pair of ceremonial blue spiritual sparrows, a piece of fish dragon mystic jade, 5 fluorescent spirits. Commandery Princess Ian has arrived. Following this announcement, Ian slowly walked in from outside the main hall in a gorgeous and dazzling robe with fluttering sleeves. She instantly attracted all the guests' gazes. As expected of the Commandery Princess, who has always been by Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's side. Beautiful, generous, and lovely. Chapter 1430. Although the volume was not loud, Commandery Princess Ian enjoyed hearing the praises that came from all around her. They were all praising her with all their might. Sure enough, she was also excellent. She knew it. She was not inferior to that crown princess at all. It was just a pity that His Highness the Crown Prince kept a distance from her from beginning to end, unwilling to look her in the eye. Otherwise, she would definitely let him know how good she was. Commandery Princess Ian gracefully walked to the bottom of the steps with a graceful smile. She bowed docilely to the Queen Dowager and said softly, "Ian wishes Her Majesty the Queen Dowager good fortune, longevity, and good health. Ian has specially prepared a small gift for the Queen Dowager to express Ian's filial piety." Su-er, who was bowing behind her, hastily raised a large red tray above her head. On top of it was a large red 100 lifespan painting, which was exquisitely and ostentatiously presented to everyone. Wow! The Commandery Princess personally embroidered a 100 lifespan painting for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. As expected, her filial piety is commendable. Look at this 100 lifespan painting. It is about several meters long and exquisitely embroidered. It can be seen at a glance that she put in a lot of effort and time. That's right, that's right. It seems like it's not just this 100 lifespan painting. There's also a porcelain bottle. When Ian heard everyone mention the porcelain bottle on the tray, she couldn't help but reveal a smug expression. Inside the porcelain bottle is a high-grade prolongation pill. I hope it will be useful to Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. Wow! The main hall was abuzz with discussion. Could it be that Commandery Princess Ian was the one who bought a prolongation pill at an astronomical price at the House of Treasures last time? Oh, I also heard about this. Everyone praised Commandery Princess Ian with smiles. Her filial piety moved the heavens and moved the earth. In order to increase Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's lifespan, she did not hesitate to spend an astronomical price to purchase a prolongation pill. With Her Majesty the Queen Dowager's level 14 phenomenal success cultivation as a mystic cultivator, Consuming a prolongation pill was actually not that effective. Although prolongation pills were high-grade pills, the higher the cultivator's cultivation, the less effective they were. Moreover, they heard that this prolongation pill that the House of Treasures was auctioning was only a middle-grade pill. Due to the different grades of medicinal pills, their medicinal effects would naturally differ greatly. If the Empress Dowager took this middle-grade prolonging life pill, it would at most increase her lifespan by 1 or 2 years. However, this was still a good amount of time. Cultivators, who didn't wish they could have a longer lifespan, so they could have more time to break through? The Queen Dowagers were the Queen Dowager's eyes to end, especially the heads of the aristocratic families who had been invited. Their shrewd old eyes shifted to the porcelain vase one after another. The Queen Dowagers as dowagers. N Dowager douse eyes of her queens in her douse. The Queen Dowager's gaze flickered, and she glanced at Commandery Princess Ian indifferently before nodding with a smile. I've troubled you. Dowagers was, but then. After the Empress Dowager took the prolonging life pill and reaped the benefits, she would naturally treat her as well as she did in the past. This estrangement was only temporary. Everyone seems to be curious about the prolongation pill. Since that's the case, then pass it around for everyone to peruse. Yes, Queen Dowager. The junior supervisor eunuch hastily walked down with the large red tray. Everyone was overjoyed, and they passed it around to look at the pill inside the porcelain bottle. The little stoic was startled. Someone turned around with a smile to look at the pill patrician family's patriarch and the 2 young sirs. Chapter 1431. Family Head Chin. Eldest young master, second young master, you 3 are pill experts. May I know how much lifespan this prolongation pill can extend for the Queen Dowager? The one who spoke was second master Wu of the Wu family. His old eyes fell on the small porcelain bottle, and he almost could not take his eyes off it. Qin Guilu smiled faintly and stood up solemnly. He cupped his hands at the Queen Dowager and said, the prolongation pill that the Commandery Princess purchased is a middle-grade advanced-level prolongation pill. According to its effects, if the Queen Dowager were to consume a middle-grade prolongation pill, with her cultivation perhaps, the lifespan it can extend will not exceed half a year at most. As soon as Qin Guilu finished speaking, there was an uproar below. Rumors had already spread outside that this middle-grade advanced-level prolongation pill that the House of Treasures had auctioned off had been sold for the astronomical price of 170,000 high-grade mystic currency. Wasn't it a bit of a loss for such an astronomical price to only extend the Queen Dowager's lifespan by half a year? Although everyone was criticizing her in their hearts, they were all flattering her on the surface. Omega Kotoka looked up slightly, and her gaze swept past the little stoic's face so quickly that it was almost undetectable. However, the little fellow was still keenly aware of the oppressive gaze. When she looked over, she only saw that everyone in the main hall was talking loudly about the life prolongation pill. She didn't notice any suspicious gazes at all. She only felt that she was overthinking things, so she lowered her eyes slightly. On the side, Prince Emo squeezed her small hand gently, and the 2 whispered into each other's ears. When Commandery Princess Ian saw their affectionate appearance, the discomfort in her heart abruptly expanded. Commandery Princess Ian's eyes flickered, and she suddenly smiled at the Queen Dowager. She said softly, Ian heard that the Crown Princess also prepared a big gift for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager. I really want to broaden my horizons. The crowd that was originally still chatting and laughing became absolutely silent all of a sudden. The main hall was so quiet that it was simply a bit frightening. Even the great king and the queen, who were sitting on the steps, had also put away their smiles, and their first glance reflexively landed on their daughter-in-law. It's over. The great king wailed in his heart. Did Ian take the wrong medicine? Why did she suddenly attack the little crown princess? Today, other than that idiotic chiliarch of the Aikido tribe, who else would go against the crown princess for no reason? What a fool! Ian realized with a start that the crown prince's cold gaze had suddenly landed on her. His heart trembled slightly, and he paused for a moment. The hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. The little stoic suddenly stood up expressionlessly and pattered to the center of the main hall. With a flip of her small hand, she took out a peach the size of a wash basin and held it up with both hands. For your grandmother. No matter how he looked at it, this scene was adorable. As the corners of everyone's mouth twitched, their eyes were filled with smiles. The Empress Dowager was grinning from ear to ear. Oh, my good granddaughter-in-law, where did you get such a big peach of immortality? Good. Quickly present it. The Queen Dowager nodded repeatedly with a grin. The junior managing eunuch instantly put on a beaming face as he pattered down the steps to take the big peach of immortality that the crown princess handed over. The little stoic expressionlessly took out another one. The junior managing eunuch quickly ran back and forth twice to present the peach of immortality, smelling the peach's fragrance with an intoxicated expression. Damn, what kind of peach was this? Not only was it big, but it also emitted a spiritual energy, and its fragrance permeated the air. Chapter 1432. When the little crown princess took out those two peaches, everyone could smell the fragrance filling the hall, and they involuntarily swallowed their saliva. It was as if their eyes were glued to the peaches, and they couldn't shift their gazes away. The 12th prince even jumped up exaggeratedly. Eldest sister-in-law, this peach, it's such a big one. Emolien speechlessly face-bombed and shot the little 12th a glare. Shut up. The 12th prince pursed his lips aggrievedly and sat down pitifully, muttering softly, Eldest sister-in-law, yours birthday is also coming up soon. Everyone. The little stoic glanced at him before retracting her gaze and looking at the junior steward eunuch, who was jogging toward her again. Arbor beckoned the junior eunuch over with his small hand. The junior eunuch quickly ran over while bowing and saying with a chuckle, Crown Princess. That little stoic expressionlessly flipped her small hand, and two white and clean small porcelain bottles and a small jar appeared in her hand. She tossed them all into the junior eunuch's hands. For grandmother. The old Queen Dowager was holding a large immortal peach and examining it carefully, grinning from ear to ear. When she heard this, she quickly looked up and looked at the two small porcelain bottles and the small jar that the junior eunuch had brought over. The Queen Dowager was moved, and she asked curiously with a smile, What are these, granddaughter-in-law? 3 prolongation pills. Everyone. 1 level 15 mystic breakthrough pill. Everyone. And a box of beautifying ointment. The entire main hall once again sank into a deathly silence. This time, no one really spoke anymore. Everyone sat there quietly, gazing at this stoic-faced little crown princess, as if they were looking at a guest from another star domain. Impossible. Ian barely controlled her bellyful of anger and looked up, but she still couldn't resist giving the crown princess a mocking look. Could it be that you want to tell everyone that you are a pill alchemist? Don't mention that beautifying ointment. I've never even heard of it. No one in the entire Seacombe planet can refine something like a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill. Don't think that just because I don't know how to refine pills, I don't know about medicinal herbs. I heard that the fire spirit rhinoceros leaf, an essential medicinal ingredient for refining a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill, has long been extinct on Seacombe planet. As she spoke, she once again glanced mockingly at the stoic face. Without the fire spirit rhinoceros leaf, what materials will you use to refine a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill? She wasn't the one who refined it, alright? That level 15 profound breakthrough pill was Long Qian's creation. She was merely using it to present Buddha with borrowed flowers. However, the little stoic, whose natural disposition was undisciplined and disinclined to explain, naturally wouldn't waste words with her. She cast her a glance before pattering back to the crown prince's side and sitting down. Everyone was speechless. Duanyi was unbearably amused. He only heard Commandery Princess Ian berating the crown princess with all her might, as though she wanted to expose something. The fire spirit rhinoceros leaf is the sole ingredient used to concoct the level 15 mystic breakthrough pill. It could be said that without this earth-grade medicinal ingredient, it was simply impossible to concoct a level 15 profound breakthrough pill. Empress Dowager, it's better to be cautious so as to avoid. After that, She purposely stopped speaking, leaving room for other people to imagine. But who didn't know that her following words would definitely be, so as to avoid accidentally consuming a fake pill, failing to break through and damaging her body instead. The little stoic creased her brows, and suddenly pulled out a crumpled piece of paper from her inner world. Everyone looked at her in bewilderment. Sitting next to her, the crown prince saw everything clearly, and his mouth involuntarily twitched. See you tomorrow. Chapter 1433. Duan Yu swept a glance over, and immediately saw what the crumpled, tattered paper in the little stoic's hand was. It was a list of gifts that had been presented along with the gifts. The little stoic remembered that there was definitely something called the fire rhinoceros leaf among them. She flipped through it, and finally found that gift list that included the fire rhinoceros leaf with much difficulty. Pursing her small lips, the little stoic stood up, and flung that gift list just like that. The gift list fluttered down to the ground. Written on it were the details of the gifts. There were all sorts of miraculous elixirs and rare treasures. Tap, tap, tap. The little stoic was afraid that Ian could not see clearly due to her poor eyesight. So she walked up to Commandery Princess Ian and abruptly slapped that gift list at her face. See for yourself. Father Chiao, who was sitting with the officials, face-bombed in exasperation. Qin Guilu wasn't too sure if other people had seen the details of this gift list, but family head Qin had seen this gift list clearly. There were all kinds of rare medicinal herbs, medicinal pills, and all kinds of defensive artifacts. This was simply unfilial son. Family head Qin glared fiercely at eldest young Sir Qin, who was face-palming. To be honest, the eldest young Sir had presented such a generous gift back then in order to disgust His Highness the Crown Prince. Who would have thought that the little stoic would pull such a stunt for him today, and even let family head Qin discover it with heartache? He had presented so many gifts, coughed out. Although young Sir Omega Kotoku was expressionless, his gaze shifted to the eldest young Sir's face. Who would have thought? This guy had actually presented such a generous gift. Judging from the length of that gift list, there were probably 200 different gifts from beginning to end. TSK, he really was generous. Commandery Princess Ian stared dumbfoundedly at the large words imprinted in front of her eyes. The 4 words Fire Rhinoceros Leaf were clearly written on the gift list. Her face flushed red, and she simply wanted to cry but had no tears. Previously, she had told everyone present with a strong case that it was simply impossible for the Crown Princess to refine a level 15 mystic breakthrough pill, because she did not have a soul herb like the fire rhinoceros leaf as a catalyst. In the end, she had slapped the little stoic's face in a matter of minutes. Commandery Princess and only felt her face burning with pain. However, if she were to take a step back now, it would only make things worse. Every pair of eyes in the hall were staring at her. Most of them were waiting to watch a good show. How could she shrink back? Commandery Princess Ian took a deep breath before saying with a sneer, even if you have something like the fire rhinoceros leaf, even if you are a pill alchemist, this still cannot prove that this level 15 mystic breakthrough pill has no problems. Princess, there's no point in saying that. Liang Qingqing interrupted her with a sullen face. Whether little junior sister is an alchemist or not, and what her alchemy skills are like, I believe that some of the people here know better than you. That's right, Wei Nanfeng said with a mischievous grin as he waved his fan. This whatever Commandery Princess, the little stoic really is a pretty good pill refiner. The day before yesterday, this little guy gave Bailey's Second Highness a level 13 mystic breakthrough pill. Look today, this person from the Bailey family is already a level 13 mystic cultivator. Wei Nanfeng's dunce words immediately caused a huge commotion, and everyone looked towards Bailey. Sure enough, they discovered that this Second Highness had the energy fluctuations of a level 13 mystic cultivator from his body. The little stoic was disinclined to explain, and put away that messy gift list, before walking back to sit next to the Crown Prince woodenly. Meanwhile, Commandery Princess Ian was flustered and exasperated. What did she mean? Chapter 1434. She gave 1 prolongation pill. But this stoic face gave 3 to the Queen Dowager? Was he trying to step on her face to demonstrate his prowess? She had spent her entire fortune to buy a prolongation pill for Her Majesty the Queen Dowager with great difficulty. All for the sake of stunning everyone in the main hall today. But now, there was no harm if there was no comparison. But once there was a comparison, it was a critical hit. The stoic face was like a peerless nouveau riche, taking out 3 prolongation pills at the slightest disagreement. It was as though prolongation pills were as worthless as cabbages that could be found on the streets. How could she endure this? How could she endure this? Commandery Princess Ian pursed her stiff lips as she swept a cold glare at the expressionless stoic face. She really wanted to tear apart this expressionless face. She wanted everyone to see her true colors. Hypocritical vain. This little lady was not as carefree as she appeared on the surface, not caring about anything at all. Her objective today was to ruthlessly slap her, Ian's face. Abominable, abominable, abominable. If the little stoic could hear Ian's mental activities, she would definitely turn her nose up at her. You must be crazy. Who would have the free time to tear you down and slap you in the face? Who told you to be so unlucky, giving out a gift that was more or less the same as mine? Who was to blame? She could only admit that she was unlucky. You said that your bottle contains 3 prolongation pills. Then do you dare to pour 1 out and let family head Qin, the elixir patrician family, appraise it? Family head Qin, who had gotten shot while lying down, looked at that commandery princess in astonishment. What was going on? Why did you drag this old man down with you? Can this old man say that he won't appraise it? Arbor didn't even bother to bat an eyelid and turned his face away, not wanting to talk to a fool. Prince Emo pinched her small hand in amusement before replying on her behalf. As you wish. However, this crown prince suggests that since Commandery Princess Ian's prolongation pill is to be appraised as well, then family head Qin should appraise it as well. Your Highness is right. The officials all nodded in agreement. Family head Qin, please. Since someone was so eager to embarrass herself, then she had no reason to refuse. Arbor glanced at Commandery Princess Ian indifferently, but did not say anything. Qin Guilu had no choice but to stand up and say, since your Highness has spoken, then this old man will appraise it. If there's anything wrong with what I said, please correct me. At this moment, the great king's interest was completely aroused. He hurriedly nodded and said, family head Qin, please. Qin Guilu first picked up Commandery Princess Ian's pill. I already said earlier, this was a middle-grade pill with blue veins. After the Empress Dowager takes it, her lifespan will increase by half a year. Blue vein pills have their own pill fragrance. Everyone should be able to smell it. Everyone nodded in agreement. At this moment, Qin Guilu picked up the jade bottle that the little crown princess presented. As soon as he opened the lid of the jade bottle, everyone smelled a faint medicinal fragrance that refreshed the heart and mind, lingering in the main hall. It smells so good. Everyone took a deep breath in unison, as if they wanted to completely inhale the medicinal fragrance of the pill out of thin air. On the other hand, Qin Guilu was so excited that he almost jumped up. This is a high-grade purple vein life prolongation pill. If the Queen Dowager consumes it, she can extend her lifespan by 2 years. Right. This kind of high-grade life prolongation pill can only be consumed 3 times in 20 years at most. Wow, there was a commotion below. Everyone looked at the little crown princess in shock. Qin Guilu even cupped his hands in salute at the little crown princess. May I ask, was this pill refined by the crown princess? Chapter 1435. Impossible. Ian, who had originally wanted to expose the crown princess for using a fake pill to deceive the Queen Dowager, didn't expect that she would be the one to dig her own grave in the end. Commandery Princess Ian was so infuriated that her heart, liver, spleen, and lungs ached. She only felt that her face was unbearably hot. It was as if everyone was staring at her strangely, as if they were looking at an idiot. She couldn't tolerate this, especially when that family head Qin actually said that this stoic face had personally refined such an impressive high-grade, advanced-level prolongation pill. So how was this possible? Before the Crown Princess could speak, Commandery Princess Ian beat her to it with a high-pitched voice. She swept a glance at family head Qin and said in a mocking tone, "The Crown Princess's cultivation is so high, so she must have spent a lot of time and energy on it. How could she have the spare time to become an advanced-level pill refinement master? In the entire Seacombe planet, there are no more than 10 advanced-level pill refinement masters who can refine high-grade pills. And each one of them is an elderly man on the verge of death. The stoic face in front of you is merely 15 years old. Even if she started learning pill refinement in her mother's womb, there still wouldn't be enough time." Commandery Princess Ian directly called the Crown Princess stoic face, in her desperation. Everyone was speechless when they heard this. This Commandery Princess used a condescending expression to analyze the truth in front of her. Afterwards, she swept a glance at family head Qin again before saying with a nonchalant shake of her head, "Family head Qin, your words are too laughable." Qin Guilu was momentarily at a loss for words. Indeed, if these 3 advanced-level prolongation pills were truly refined by the little Crown Princess, then she was really too amazing. Not only did she have great accomplishments in cultivation, but she also had such great accomplishments in pill refinement. This sounded too unrealistic. However, this conceited Commandery Princess's tone inevitably made people uncomfortable. Qin Guilu frowned and said rudely, "Only the Crown Princess knows best whether or not it is true." Commandery Princess's words seem a bit arbitrary. The little Crown Princess sat there without saying a word. Only those who were close to her could see that the child was extremely impatient. This Commandery Princess Ian was unwilling to let go of her, which really made her feel gloomy. The little stoic stood up again and pattered to Qin Guilu. She suddenly swiped her hand, and a large pile of porcelain bottles appeared in front of Qin Guilu. Qin Guilu glanced at her in shock, and his hand trembled as he opened one of them. Life extension pill. The second one was the life-prolonging pill. The third one was still a life-prolonging pill. That the large pile of life prolongation pills made family head Qin's jaw drop. Was this mass production of life prolongation pills? He tapped on the bottles and inspected them. Then he said in a trembling voice, 100 bottles of life-prolonging pills. Pills. Gulp. Family head Qin realized that he could hear himself swallowing his saliva. 5 pills per bottle. Wow. Gasps could be heard from the hall. Everyone looked at the little stoic in shock. They simply couldn't imagine what kind of courage it took to take out 500 prolongation pills. All at once. Is it really okay for you to scare people like this? After a moment of silence, the hall suddenly erupted with shouts. Crown Princess, I'll buy it. I'll buy it, I'll buy it. Are these life prolongation pills for sale? Crown Princess, sell one to me. In an instant, the entire hall had turned into a wet market. Everyone was so excited that they wished for nothing more than to pounce on this pile of pills. Chapter 1436. Crown Princess, I'll pay 170,000 mystic currency to buy a prolongation pill. I'll also pay 170,000 mystic currency. Buy one, I'll buy one. Crown Princess, I'm begging you, sell the prolongation pill to me. Crown Princess, I'll pay 1 million mystic currency. Can you give me 6 prolongation pills at a cheaper price? Scram, you actually want 6 pills. The main hall was immediately filled with the sounds of people shouting prices and quarreling, turning the place into a chaotic mess. However, the little stoic swiftly put away the 100 bottles of prolongation pills and silently swept everyone a glance. That gaze was as disdainful as it could be, and it made everyone feel disgusted to death. Duan Yu guffawed and waved the raven bone fan in his hand, saying with a grin, How could Jojo lack your bit of mystic currency? Everyone thought about it and realized that this was true. Mystic currency wasn't created by the imperial court, so the little crown princess could have as many mystic currency as she wanted with a stretch of her hand. Hence, everyone clamored again. Then Crown Princess, how about this? How about I use a black-ranked medicinal herb to exchange for a prolongation pill? The little stoic turned to look at family head Qin, who spoke, and nodded reluctantly. What black-ranked medicinal herb will you use to exchange with me? 50 stalks of interlocking chain herb. This price was high enough, right? That was 50 stalks of black-rank medicinal herbs for a high-rank pill. No matter how one looked at it, the little stoic crown princess had a better chance of winning. Who would have expected that the little crown princess would shake her head? I already have this kind of black-rank medicinal herb. What? Family head Qin widened his eyes and reflexively turned to look at eldest young Sir Qin, who had turned his face to the side. Unfilial son. Completely disregarding the clan's interests and acting willfully and recklessly. If the clan head knew, he would definitely severely punish eldest young Sir. Right that wait. The second young Sir was also the one who gave the gift. The two young Sirs should be severely punished together. Family head Qin ground his teeth and then asked, "Wind throat flower?" The little stoic shook her head again. After shaking his head several dozen times in a row, Qin Guilu was so infuriated that he wished for nothing more than to immediately jump over and beat eldest Qin up. In the end, he finally reported a black-rank material called earth date leaf. The little stoic's eyes brightened slightly, and she nodded, agreeing to family head Qin's request to exchange 50 earth date leaves for one prolongation pill. Family head Qin's heart ached, but it was not a loss to exchange for a high-grade life prolongation pill. The rest of the people swarmed over like a swarm of bees, wanting to exchange longevity pills with the little crown princess. However, he was stopped by the crown prince's gaze. Only then did he take a few steps back in embarrassment. Prince Emo led his little wife back to their seats and looked up at the crowd. Those who want to use precious herbs, magic treasures, and forging materials to exchange for longevity pills. When the banquet is over, register yourselves. When the crown princess finds it feasible, she will send someone to inform you to exchange. Only then did everyone excitedly return to their seats. In their hearts, they were all secretly calculating what precious items they should use to exchange for a life-prolonging pill from the crown princess. Commandery Princess Ian, who was standing in the center of the main hall, had been in a daze for a long time. This continued until the Queen Dowager couldn't stand it anymore and coughed lightly, saying, "Ian, if you don't have any questions, then go down and take a seat." Ian instantly felt her cheeks burning, and she quickly lowered her head. She quickly strode back to her seat. During the rest of the banquet, Commandery Princess Ian kept drinking silently with her head lowered, not making any more noise. She truly didn't have the face to make any more noise. Chapter 1437. When the Great King saw that the atmosphere was gradually improving, he revealed a smile again and gave Empress Zhao a look. Empress Zhao nodded and ordered for the dancers to perform a birthday dance. All the courtiers stood up in unison to congratulate the Queen Dowager on her birthday. After experiencing some minor twists and turns, the birthday banquet finally ended satisfactorily with both the host and the guests thoroughly enjoying themselves. After the banquet ended, everyone swarmed to the Eastern Palace's junior eunuch, Xiao 11Z, to register their purchase of the prolongation pill. However, Arbor had long impatiently skipped to the red-clothed girl's side. She bit her lips and reached out to her with an aggrieved expression. Doya hastily gave her a big hug and softly said with tears in her eyes, "Little junior sister, it's really great to see you." Arbor also felt that it was very great to see Doya. She originally thought that the entire holy water sect had been massacred to the point that there was no one left except for her. When she suddenly saw Doya, she recalled the red-clothed girl from another tribe she met on the first day she went to the holy water sect 8 years ago. "You're also here to participate in the holy water sect's entrance examination, right? Don't be afraid, just stay by my side. We're from the western region's Alava tribe. I'm called Doya. What about you? What's your name?" Some memories might seem distant, but when she thought about it now, it was as if they happened right before her eyes. They were so fresh that they could be touched. She thought that Doya had long died in that 6 prefectures massacre. She thought that her corpse had long dissipated from the world without a trace. That was because when she finally collected the sect's corpses alone in a daze, she only counted the corpses of 500 disciples. There were too many people who self-detonated in the sect that day, so the life lantern shadows in the ancestral hall were also incomplete. She hadn't seen everyone's life lantern shadows. The little stoic wasn't sure whether Doya was among the group of people who self-detonated. Arbor only felt sad and aggrieved at this moment, and some negative emotions firmly bound her. Junior sister, don't be sad. If Marshall Uncle's spirit is in heaven, she also wouldn't want to see you like this. Doya reached out and gently patted her back. Come, let's talk outside. Seeing that some people in the main hall had finished registering and kept glancing at them, Doya pulled the little stoic's hand and led her outside. Actually, they didn't have any ill intentions. It was just that they couldn't help but take a few more curious glances at the stoic-faced crown princess. Prince Emo had been paying attention to his wife's movements, but he did not go over to disturb her reunion with Doya. Your Highness, Ian just ran away with her tail between her legs. Huifeng appeared beside Emo Lien and reported with a grin. The good show just now was really a little exciting. Ian had been publicly slapped in the face by the crown princess several times in a row. Even he felt his face hurt for her. Emo Lien's gaze gradually chilled. She and the vassal prince of Anan are getting married the day after tomorrow? That's right, the 10th of June. Emo Lien smirked. Keep an eye on him. Make sure nothing goes wrong. Let the two of them get married smoothly. Yes. Huifeng nodded vigorously. Doya pulled her little junior sister along and found a slightly more remote waterside pavilion in Brocade Garden, pulling her into the pavilion. At this time, it was already deep into the night, and the water's surface swayed under the moonlight with a gentle breeze. The two of them sat on the bow-shaped bench while leaning against the railing. The Alava tribe's clansmen were all standing far away outside the waterside pavilion, and no one came to disturb the senior sister and junior sister. Chapter 1438. Little Junior Sister. Doya tightly grasped her hands and said in a slightly choked voice, I knew you would be fine. Senior Sister Doya, can you tell me what happened to you that day? Doya nodded. That day, after we bid farewell to you and left Shisha Valley, Aunt Master instructed me to stay outside Shisha Valley. Aunt Master had already guessed that you would follow us out at that time. She wanted me to keep you in Shisha Valley, no matter what method I used, and not let you return to the sect. Doya's expression was pained as she recalled that day. I wasn't willing. I wanted to return to the sect with my master. But in the end, I was still kept behind. I waited for you outside Shisha Valley for 3 days, but I didn't see you come out. I thought that Shisha Valley's Valley Master must have blocked you somehow, so I planned to make a trip back to the sect. But on the way back, when I crossed the Great Swamp by myself, I was surrounded by perils and almost lost my life. Senior Sister. The little stoic couldn't bear it anymore and threw herself into her arms with a wah. The two sisters hugged each other and wept bitterly, as if they wanted to vent all of their grievances, pain, and resentment in this lifetime. Thankfully, the summoning talisman you gave me came in handy at that time. I finally wasn't fighting by myself. With a summoned beast accompanying me, I finally ran out of the Great Swamp after more than 10 days. But when I returned to the sect, I only saw thistles and thorns everywhere, and there wasn't a single person in sight. There was nothing left. Doya's eyes were red, and tears streamed down her face. She pounded her chest and said, I don't know how I managed to hold on at that time. I searched everywhere on the ruined mountain. There wasn't a single survivor. I didn't even find a single one of their corpses. I'm too useless. When Doya said this, she covered her face with both hands. Arbor took out a handkerchief to wipe her face and shook her head. Senior Sister, don't say that. Doya exhaled deeply and said, I wanted to seek revenge from the 6 prefectures, but I was alone and weak, and I didn't even know where to find them. My heart is filled with hatred, but I know that it's impossible for me to take revenge alone. So I returned to my tribe. I want to make my tribe stronger. But all these years, we've been in constant conflict with Aikido in the Western Wastelands. In order to preserve his strength, he had no choice but to hide and wait for an opportunity to become stronger. At this point, Doya's face was filled with dejection as she lowered her head. But the resources in the Western Wastelands are scarce. And the strength of our clansmen is far behind that of the Aikido tribe. Reality is just so frustrating. Doya turned her head and pulled out a bleak smile at Arbor. Even if you risk your life and want to climb the peak step by step, without that opportunity and resources, it's useless no matter what you say. During this time, I remembered that Master mentioned that your home is in Shijio City. I was worried about you, so I thought of going to Shijio City to look for you and try my luck. Maybe I'll really find you. At that time, we sisters won't be alone anymore. If there's anything, we can discuss it. Unfortunately, I didn't find you in Shijio City. After that, the Aikido tribe kept pressing on. I was exhausted from running for my life, leading the people of our tribe to hide here and there. Hey, junior sister, am I very useless? Chapter 1439. Arbor forcefully shook her head again and again. Doya looked at her and smiled again. During Northern Mo's Queen Dowager's birthday this time, I recalled your relationship with Mo Kingdom's crown prince. I only came here with the idea of seeing if I could meet you, but I didn't expect. Junior sister, I'm really happy. My decision this time was finally correct. These years, Aikido has always chased after us. On the way here, I was still thinking about what to do if we encountered those Aikido barbarians, to minimize our tribe's losses. But I didn't expect that the entire journey would be so smooth, and that we wouldn't encounter those Aikido lunatics. When Doya said this, a flowery smile blossomed on her face. She tightly grasped Arbor's small hand and said, I'm guessing that Aunt Master, and the others must be blessing me from the heavens, allowing us to reunite here. Arbor nodded vigorously. Doya smiled and rubbed her small head. For a moment, it was as if they had returned to the past. The sisters cried and laughed for a while before wiping away their tears and restraining their emotions. Doya suddenly gnashed her teeth and said, Junior sister later, did you see that beast Yi Lingmin? Arbor shook her head. After that, I didn't see her at all. She actually disappeared without a trace after causing such a huge disaster. After the sect was massacred, she didn't even show up. If I meet her, I'll definitely kill her and clean up the sect. The little stoic didn't say anything and only lowered her small head listlessly. Junior sister, you mustn't sympathize with her. Although she's your third senior sister, she's also the main culprit behind the sect's destruction. Doya understood this little fellow too well. Although she had a cold face, her heart was warm, especially toward the sect. She had an unforgettable feeling. Think of eldest senior sister Su Shanshan, second senior sister Shueshao, eldest Aunt Master, and your two Aunt Masters, who didn't leave innocently. Junior sister, we mustn't be soft-hearted toward this person, because all of this was caused by Yi Lingmin. Even if us senior and junior sisters join hands to kill her, she only has herself to blame and can't blame anyone else. Doya gazed icily at the surface of the water before her before turning around to firmly grasp Xiao Mu's small hand. Xiao Mu subconsciously nodded her small head. Doya calmed her emotions and suddenly took out a letter from her inner world, placing it in the little stoic's hand. Junior sister, Aunt Master left you a letter before she left. This letter has been in my hands for 8 years. Today I can finally give it to you. Xiao Mu impatiently tore open the letter and read it line by line, word by word. The letter read, Disciple, let me guess. You are reading the letter while scolding me for being a big liar. Yes, Master is a liar. Master has indeed deceived you this time. If there was a 1 in a billion chance, Master would never abandon you. Every time I think of you being alone in the future, I feel as if a knife is being twisted in my heart. But disciple, you have to promise Master that even if you're the only one left in the sect, you have to live on well. During your most difficult time, Master feels guilty for not being able to stay by your side. But you have to believe that you have to face any obstacles by yourself and walk through them with large strides. On the path of cultivation, what we cultivate is both the body and the heart. Only with a strong heart can we face anything fearlessly in the future. Chapter 1440. If you must go to the 6 prefectures continent, Then go to Shuntian Prefecture's Lava Mountain Range first, and enter a top-notch academy to study for a while. You only need to show the pine jade bracelet I gave you to the headmaster of the top-notch academy, and he will naturally take good care of you on my behalf. I know that with your personality, you definitely won't let the matter of the sect go. But my disciple, you must remember that before you become strong, you must not speak lightly of revenge. Also, don't act rashly without understanding the situation of the 6 prefectures. Only by preserving your strength will you have a future and hope. Everything about the Holy Water sect will be entrusted to you. The final signature was, Miss Your Master Morong Sun. The little stoic's gaze paused on the words Miss Your Master. Unwittingly, tears splashed onto the letter, nearly blurring the word master. She hastily blinked and wiped away the moisture on the letter. She blew on it before folding the letter and putting it away. She muttered to herself, big liar. She originally thought she would never cry again, but she didn't expect her tears to come so abruptly when she saw Morong Sun's letter. Doya wrapped her arms around her shoulders and patted her comfortingly. Little junior sister, what did eldest Aunt Master say? The little stoic mentioned the top-notch academy that Morong Sun mentioned in her letter to Doya. Could the headmaster of this top-notch academy be eldest Aunt Master's old friend? Doya exclaimed in surprise. I don't know. Arbor shook his head. There's still a month before the normal passage between the 6 prefectures and the lower star domain opens. I plan to go up the passage and go to the 6 prefectures continent. When Arbor said this, he recalled how the prefecture lord of Shuntian Prefecture intended to control his life, and new and old grudges surged into his heart. I won't let a single one of those people off. All right, I'll go with you. Doya looked down at herself. I only heard that to enter the passage, one must have sensed the power of the 5 spirits. Unfortunately, I still haven't. Arbor blinked. There's still a month's time. Senior sister Doya, don't worry. If you really can't, I'll bring you to the 6 prefectures continent first. It'll be much easier to sense the power of the 5 spirits there. After all, in the lower starfield, it was basically impossible to sense the origin energy of the 5 spirits. Currently, senior sister Doya's cultivation was a level 12 mystic cultivator, so she still had to raise it a bit more. The little stoic tilted her head and glanced at Doya before taking out several bottles of pills and a handful of talismans from her pocket and stuffing them all into Doya's hands. Senior sister, here are 2 bottles of energy-gathering pills and a level 13 mystic breakthrough pill. Try and see if you can raise your profound strength to the 13th level within this month. At that time, when we go to the 6 prefectures continent, you can also break through to the spirit realm in the shortest time possible. If I haven't reached the 13th level of cultivation, how can I go to the 6 prefectures continent? Doya muttered in confusion, and then she was overjoyed as she reached out and held up a pile of medicinal pills. So many talismans. After you activate the talisman with your blood, it will form a mystic guiding talisman array to help you cultivate. All right. Junior sister, there's still a month left. I'll definitely work hard. My clansmen are. Don't worry, I'll get someone to take good care of them. MHM. Doya nodded with a smile. The 2 of them looked at each other and read a trace of determination and hope in each other's eyes. 6 prefectures, just you wait. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.